says go live. Oh, we are live. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to be live?
Well, that's interesting.
Pretty sure. What's the matter?
No, nothing's the matter. I was just working out that the brightness of the video is independent of what the screen looks like. So I thought, oh, the video looks a bit dark. I'll just brighten the screen on my laptop. And of course, it doesn't make any difference to the output, the screen sharing. So there must be somewhere else that you do that. I've no idea.
Maybe
it's alive.
Would that be something in the ATEM settings, maybe?
And I'm not going to mess about with it now.
Yeah,
but you might be right.
Don't do that.
No.
I mean, I'm just guessing. I'm still trying to find that little bit of information that we were just talking about regarding the 777.
I don't think we necessarily need it. We are both apparently know now.
Yeah, but I'm wondering why is it that I know that I thought that I read about it on the Aviation Safety Network, but I don't see it. Interesting. Okay, go back to home. All access 2020. And wow. Try that. Hello everybody. I'm not looking at comments or anything, so sorry.
I am.
Okay.
Lane says it's alive. I think he must have just created a Frankenstein's monster.
Oh no. Hopefully it's a good.
We told you not to mess about with those dead body parts.
It's a good monster. Good monster.
Is Frankenstein's monster ever good?
It depends on which movie you see.
Probably true.
What did you say,
from Norway?
Yeah, the Bride of Frankenstein thought he was okay. Shouldn't it be the Bride of Frankenstein's monster? Or
yes,
no,
it should. Everyone seems to call the monster Frankenstein, but he was the doctor.
Yeah, that's not.
Exactly.
Right? Frankenstein is the scientist.
Yeah, he was the doctor.
Scientist. The doctor.
Yes.
Got to watch out for that.
Yes, doctors. I know, Lane. I keep having to dodge these bloody planes. Oh, we're back in Boston, I think. I think that's Boston. Wow. Oh. In fact, I think I've parked along that terminal somewhere. Along that part.
Okay, let's do this.
Gone around the side. Oh, now back at London City. 777. Can always tell London City. It's got that dome behind it.
Never been there.
Well, they built it for the millennium and they've hung on to it. It was going to be just there up for the celebrations and then people liked it, so they hung on to it. A bit like the London Eye. They were going to take it down after the millennium and someone said, oh, it's good fun, keep it up.
Here it is. Finally found it. Okay. See if I can find the... Yes, it does. It does.
Very good, Lane.
After landing, it was found that the sensors of the left and right static systems were not connected. During maintenance before the incident flight, the pneumatic lines of the static system were disconnected and flushed with dry air. The lines were then supposed to be reconnected to the system. And then they were supposed to do a pedostatic leak check or leak test. Apparently, they said it was accomplished, but obviously it wasn't because
none of which were actually done.
Right.
Or they would have noticed the fact they hadn't connected anything.
Somebody, I'm sure, must have lost their jobs.
Yeah, but I suspect both the engineers and the supervisor who signed it off.
Okay, I'm going to insert it into the text of the note that we already have. It is apparently in
Oh, we've got a
brown.
C-17 driver.
A C-17 driver.
Yeah.
We know a lot of C-17 drivers, and
Yeah, we
most
do
of them,
now.
some of them
Well-
aren't too bad. People.
Well, we've flown them, haven't we? Was that a C-17?
Oh, well, we simulated flying in one.
Yes. We sat in a C-17 simulator together.
Yes, we did.
So
Right,
why is it
Harrison.
so hard to fly, Matt? Why does it have a completely bananas control system?
Matt Froelich. Sounds like he's from Germany.
Well, so does the guys in today's Plain Tale, but they're not. They're American.
Oh,
Oh, here comes Steffi.
Hi.
speaking of Americans,
Hi, Steph.
That's me.
there's one.
American.
American.
Mer-
Proud to be an American.
American. Yes. So,
Not
Greetings.
American. That's an entirely different thing.
not American. Not the same thing at all. Let's not confuse those two things.
Lowly G4 pilot.
Oh,
Hello,
it's-
Graham
it's
Fig. The
Graham.
lowly G4 pilot. You?
Yes. Have you been to Farnborough lately? Even if you did come, I wouldn't be allowed out to come and have breakfast, I'm afraid.
Even after this whole COVID thing, I would recommend against it.
Well, it depends who's buying. Graham bought last time. I think it's my
I'm
turn.
talking about the people, not you.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to do a public service announcement.
Fair enough.
Think strongly about it. Whether you really want to expose yourself to this.
You're so mean.
What's that?
Nothing. Me? I don't know. I started to say
Liz?
something. And then
Are you saying something to me, Liz? Oh, no. I wasn't exposing myself. That's for the after show.
so many different types of exposure. Oh my gosh.
Matt's from the United States Air Force.
Is he? A fellow USAF pilot. Well, I used
Yes.
to be. Long time ago. Far, far away. Long time ago. Queenstown, New Zealand. Hello, Rob.
This beer tastes delicious.
Queenstown, is that... well,
Where is
we all know
Queenstown?
why New Zealand's so green, Rob, is that it never stops raining. It's a bit like Ireland. Everyone says, oh, it's lovely and
Seattle.
green here. Yeah, because it never stops raining.
Mohammed says the most beautiful thing in my training sessions were when there was a C-17 departing or landing. Very beautiful moments. I think the best C-17 moment is to see it departing.
Yeah. Well, you'd like
I'm
its
just kidding.
backside.
I like the C-17. I don't know why I'm saying that.
Matt, welcome to the abuse.
Yes,
Yeah, that's right.
we
The
We
email
appreciate
you're
you
looking
being here
for...
live with us, and yeah.
Yeah. The email address you're looking for is I'mOffended@airlinepilot.com.
Matt.
That's the one.
Matt, did I fly with you? Are you also an airline pilot, or are you a full-time U.S. Air
denoises.
Force? I don't know. Oh, hey, did I show you? I don't think I could have because I just
dear.
unwrapped it myself. But I told you about the gift that Natalie gave me for Christmas.
Graham's not coming to Europe anymore. Well, I agree, Graham. That is a boo-hoo. I'll have to come visit you.
Okay, ready?
Ready?
Go on then.
Ooh.
Oh, what is that?
Well, it's hard to
That's very
see
nice.
because
Who
of
was that a
the,
gift from? Did you say Natalie?
From Natalie. Yeah.
That's nice.
Is that a glass block with
Yeah, it's
your...
it's a lucite or whatever you
nameplate?
guys call it.
Yeah.
Perplex.
Oh, it's very nice.
Perpex. What do you call it?
Perspex.
Perplexed?
Perspex. There we go.
Yeah, it's a
So,
Perspex
anyway, yeah,
block.
it's a nice thick
Oh, that's deep
and
too.
long.
That's what she said.
Oh, and this also. Yeah. All right. Liz, you don't have to laugh that hard. Anyway, it's very nice. I told her I have it on top of one of my monitor speakers so that I can look up and remember who I am.
That's true.
I have a tough time.
You have
sometimes.
no excuse now for forgetting your name.
I have no excuse. Over here, I have one that says, Jim. I thought you said Jen. That was from Liz. And then I got another little thing that says, life happens. Coffee helps. So does alcohol.
Very good, yes.
I have this one, which I think someone just shared a meme of this, but it reminded me I have this coffee mug.
That's what she. Yeah, I think Rick
Rick posted
shared
something along
a
that.
T-shirt
Yeah.
depiction of that.
Well, I have the actual mug, so.
Very nice.
Excellent.
So it sounds like it's a real ceramic. Very nice.
It's empty at the moment.
Either that or Steph has ceramic fingernails.
Yeah, could be.
I don't, but I have a Band-Aid with llamas on it.
Oh, what did you do to your finger?
How do you know it's
hangnail.
you
that
have
was
a
getting caught on
boo-boo?
everything.
Oh.
No, just when it's dry air in the winter and your hands get all dry, and I've been washing them a million times a day and a bunch of Purell and all that stuff. The skin gets a little irritated and got a little hangnail there that just was catching on everything and driving me crazy. So, what
How you
better
feel,
use
Steph, other
for
than
a
the-
llama Band-Aid?
Other than that, how do you feel? Good?
Pretty good. Feel fine.
Pretty good. Gotcha. Okay.
Excellent.
How are the volumes, everyone? Or, I mean, nobody has complained, so I think that must mean
That doesn't mean they don't have complaints. It just means they're
Oh, no.
No.
doing something
actually,
else.
And it's a huge...
No, we've
actually,
got
it's
the nice people in the chat room right now. The whingers haven't
Right.
arrived yet.
That's right.
It's always a huge mistake to point out that they're not complaining about everything. That usually,
Chris, the beer is a all-day IPA because I plan to be drinking it for the rest of the
What
day.
does it turn into at night time then? Does it turn into something else?
an all night.
No, it's still all day. Just all the hours of the day. It's fine.
Okay. Tomorrow it'll still be an all
My
day,
coffee's
will it?
almost
It
gone.
will,
I have to get
indeed.
some more coffee.
Wow.
Oh, well, I'll have to suffer. Okay, let me do a check on this sound.
You're listening.
That's too loud again. At least to me, it is.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
How's the volume on that?
Yeah, that
Sounds
wasn't
fine.
too loud.
Fine? Okay. All right. I think we're ready to go. What do you think, Liz? Okay.
Does she care?
Well, I didn't ask her if she cared.
It wasn't really.
You know,
it was an opinion question, but
You know, sometimes you learn in life that if you don't want an answer to a question, don't ask the question.
Yeah, that's very good advice, Jeff.
Yes. All right.
this is why I don't ask very many questions.
Yes.
Accept and move on.
Stopped asking questions. All right. Here we go.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 457.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio.
That was just a sound check.
Have you started your recorder, Jeff?
Nope.
Have you started
course I
your
have.
recorder?
I am a
And
Just
podcasting
right this very
professional.
second.
And have you
Come
put
on.
the card back in your recorder?
I can't believe that you would even question. Let's see. Let me press this button there. Luckily, you can't hear that little thing that goes beep when you press the record button. But I just told you that it made that noise.
That's true. It made a little beep.
Okay, I'm now recording and have two SD cards, SD card 1 and 2. So it's recording all the tracks individually and it's recording all the tracks simultaneously as a backup.
You know what you forgot to have me do last show? At the end
What
of
did
the
I
show?
forget to have you do last? What?
Stop my
Tell you
recording.
to stop the recording? Oh, no. Not again.
I remembered after a day and a half, though, as opposed to
Oh,
like
good.
9 days.
That's
Okay,
brilliant.
Liz, you
Okay.
have to remember to remind us to shut the recorders off.
It says it right here on my, like, I have a little sticky note.
Well, that doesn't matter.
Now, clearly, I don't look at it.
All right, let's see. APG 457 in 3, 2, 1.
Someone was out.
Yeah,
me.
it doesn't matter. One of these
Right,
days,
we're off.
Nev probably thinks that I don't have that clapper thing anymore, but I do.
She probably
Just in a
probably thinks you flushed it down the
Lost.
loo.
That would make quite a clog.
okay. Hang on.
That sounds like the voice of experience there, Steph.
Don't ask what's been flushed. No, just kidding.
No, I'm not going to. I need a knee heater. My knees are getting a bit
Are they
chilly
cold?
nowadays. Yeah, they do get cold.
You need one of these, which is
Oh,
actually
what's that?
currently on. It's a heating pad.
Ah, that sounds nice.
I have my foot on it because my foot hurts.
Well, that's because you keep running around on it.
I know.
So if you stop doing that, your foot won't hurt anymore.
It might not hurt anymore.
Good point. It might not hurt anymore. No guarantees in this world. Jeff's lost something. Is he looking for a cup of coffee in this
I mean,
coffee
he's
bar?
in the coffee shop.
He is
It
in
looks
the
like
coffee
the-
shop.
Vaguely looks like the Friends coffee shop. Like
It
Central
does a
Park.
bit, doesn't it? Yeah. But we'll have to call it the Jeff's coffee shop. It's actually so realistic. It looks like you're actually looking around that coffee shop.
I looked under the coffee machine, which is right back there, and under that booth that's right at the front there, you know, where the snow is coming down outside,
Yeah.
and I could not find it. But trust me, I do still have the clapper thing. It just wasn't exactly where I thought it was, in the that plastic bin that's behind the green screen, but I was wrong. It's not there. I'll find it eventually. Okay. Anyway, here we go again. Okay. And we'll call it 19.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 457.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on January 20th, 2021.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Picture light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, thousands of Norwegian Air crew members lose their jobs as the airline gets out of long haul. The Civilian Air Patrol starts delivering COVID vaccines. More news, your feedback, and today's plane tale, the Deutschendorfs. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 457 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He's an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation. 1010 wins in New York City. I'll have to readjust that. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. Wow. I'm Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based here in Atlanta, and I cannot read today. Joining me today, though, I'm pretty sure she knows how to read. From her lakeside studio in South... A doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated backstabbing jumper-dumper, Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff. I think I can still read. I'm not sure about speaking. We'll find out as the show goes on. Looking
Well, I
forward
don't
to
think I
another
can
good
do
one.
either, actually. But you're
We'll
going to
help
have a
each
much
other
better
out.
chance than I
Maybe.
think. All right. And also joining us today from his studio in the English countryside, professional photographer, former RAF RAAF fighter pilot, retired captain for an international airline based in London. It's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff. Hi, Steph. What a great day it's been today. A very special day. I gather it's our birthday.
It is. We're going to talk about that when we kind of get to know each other and what we've been doing since the last
Well,
episode.
I can't wait, since you're two complete strangers.
It is going to be exciting, that's for sure. But, let's move on to the news.
Stand by for news.
All right. First item here is a final report. This incident occurred at Toronto Pearson International Airport back in August of 2019, and it was a rejected takeoff due to no takeoff clearance and crossing aircraft. An Air Georgian Canadair CRJ-200 registration Charlie Golf Kilo Echo Juliet, performing flight 7339 from Toronto, Ontario to Columbus, Ohio, with 42 passengers and 3 crew, have been cleared to line up on runway 33 right. And an Air Canada Boeing 777-300 registration Charlie Foxtrot India Uniform Romeo, performing flight 883 from Copenhagen to Toronto, with 378 passengers and 12 crew, had landed on runway 33 left, was cleared to cross runway 33 right at Taxiway Hotel without delay. And that's basically at the far end of 33 right. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and move down to the Transportation Safety Board's description of the sequence of events. At 12:42 local time, the first officer of the CRJ-200, the Air Georgian CRJ, had finished the taxi checklist and was continuing with the lineup checklist when the tower controller instructed the flight crew to line up on runway 33 right. With this instruction, the tower controller included an amendment to the altitude and heading for the Standard Instrument Departure, or SID, we like to call it, clearance, to ensure adequate separation with the Dash 8 that had just departed. After reading back the instructions correctly, the first officer changed the altitude selector and then returned to the next item on the lineup checklist. After hearing the correct readback from the first officer of the CRJ-200, the tower controller, who was also actively controlling arrivals on 33 left, turned to observe another de Havilland DHC-8 aircraft that was on approach for landing 33 left. As the CRJ-200 taxied to line up on 33 right, the Boeing 777 was approaching the 33 right hold short line at Taxiway Hotel, again at the far end of the runway. At 12:43:16, the North ground controller, who had coordinated runway activity with the tower controller, instructed the flight crew of the Boeing 777 to cross 33 right without delay. As the flight crew of the CRJ-200 lined up into position on runway 33 right, and the first officer finished the lineup checklist, the captain asked the FO if they received a takeoff clearance. The FO stated that they had. At 12:43:30, as the Boeing 777 crossed the runway holding position for 33 right, the crew of the CRJ-200 began the takeoff roll. The crew had not received takeoff clearance from the tower controller. The CRJ-200 began to accelerate. As the aircraft approached the peak of the elevated hump in the runway, the captain saw the Boeing 777 approximately 5,400 feet ahead and immediately rejected the takeoff. At that time, the flight crew realized that they had likely not received a takeoff clearance. At 12:43:46, the runway incursion monitoring and conflict alert system, the RIMCAS 4, issued a visual alert and audible alarm in the tower. The tower controller, who had been focused on the arriving Dash 8 aircraft on 33 left, instantly shifted his attention to the conflict on 33 right. At 53 seconds after, the tower controller quickly assessed the situation, determined that there was no risk of collision, and immediately issued a takeoff clearance to the crew of the CRJ-200, who had already initiated a rejected takeoff. The crew of the CRJ-200 made a radio call to inform the tower controller that they were rejecting the takeoff. The tower controller then instructed the CRJ-200 to exit runway 33 right at taxiway Bravo 2. And so long story short, they did the applicable checklist items for a rejected takeoff, made sure everything was okay, and went back down to the departure end of the runway. And this time took off with clearance from the air traffic tower. And let's see, the Transportation Safety Board analyzed this and said as the CRJ-200 approached runway 33 right, the flight crew was expecting to receive immediate authorization to take off. Although the first officer read back the ATC instructions correctly, she had limited attentional resources to evaluate the content of the instructions, as her focus was on completing the lineup checklist. The FO's load was further elevated as she focused on the heading and altitude change of the Standard Instrument Departure Amendment, which at the time she believed was most important in the lineup instruction. The SID amendment reinforced the first officer's expectation that they would soon receive authorization to take off. It is important to note that the FO was accustomed to receiving a SID amendment followed by a takeoff clearance. In this occurrence, when the FO received and read back the lineup instruction with the SID amendment, she misinterpreted that ATC communication as a clearance for takeoff. What do they call that? Expectation bias?
Exactly.
Yep, expectation bias, yes.
Let's see. When the captain asked if the first officer, or asked the FO if they had received clearance to take off, the FO who had misinterpreted the tower controller lineup and SID amendment instructions as clearance to take off replied that they had received takeoff clearance. This interpretation matched the crew's mental model of the situation, that they would be taking off shortly after lining up on runway 33 right. Anyway, so it goes on to talk about the fact that it wasn't really a big deal. I mean, the part of the problem, as I mentioned in the sequence of events, is the fact that 33 right, when you're at the southeast end of the runway and you're beginning a takeoff roll, you really cannot see the end of the runway because it gradually is an upslope, and then it kind of peaks somewhere, I don't know, close to the middle of the runway, I guess, and then it kind of either levels off or goes back down. Yes, Liz? Got a hump. Yep. Is that a verb or a noun? You're okay. And we're not talking about Poppy. What are we talking about here? I don't. Huh. Okay. I'm just going to leave a sufficient pause so I'll know where to start my editing.
I mean, we were following. Just
okay.
It was just like you were communing with a deity.
Well, in a way, I am. Liz is the APG deity. Anyway, based on TSB, okay, we were talking about the hump in the runway and the fact that you can't see necessarily. I mean, they said they did a study that at 8,900 feet away, you may have been able to see the very, very top portion of the vertical stabilizer on the 777, but it would likely be kind of hard to see in the, I don't know, all the other stuff that you have, the clutter that you would see in the background there. And so I can understand the startle effect that the captain had as they kind of reached the crest of the hump and then went, whoa, why is there a big giant airplane crossing my runway? Oh, maybe we didn't receive takeoff clearance. Oh, let's see. Here's an interesting question from Lane. Do our esteemed pilots use any tricks as reminders for receiving clearance, such as landing lights on when clear for takeoff? Hang on. Do we have any esteemed pilots here?
So you've
in the coffee
just got
shop.
us, I'm afraid.
The coffee shop looks rather empty this afternoon.
Yeah, well, social distancing.
That's right.
There are no esteemed pilots, so that's going to be a tough question to answer. But I can tell you what I do. Well, we I think it depends on the policy of your airline. At Acme Airlines, when we are told to line up and wait, or when we're taking the runway before we receive takeoff clearance, we turn on certain lights. In the case of my airplane, we turn on the taxi light. which is on the nose wheel. We do have the wing landing lights extended, but we don't normally turn those on at that point until we receive clearance for takeoff. And again, it depends on your company's SOP when it comes to that sort of thing. But, when we receive takeoff clearance, that's when all the lights come on, all the available lights. Nick, I'm assuming it's similar?
We
for
didn't
you?
have the same procedure in my outfit. No.
Okay.
As soon as we entered the runway, we put the lights on because otherwise it meant holding part of the checklist because it's in the checklist. But we, because of the dangers of misinterpreting commands to or clearances to cross runways, takeoff, that sort of thing, certainly in my cockpit, I always made a point of double confirming with the other pilot when I had received a clearance. So I would say, as he said, "You're cleared takeoff," I would turn and look at him and say, "That's our takeoff clearance." And I would expect him to do something similar back to me so that we're both in the loop. I very rarely like to do something like start rolling down the runway unless I as well had heard the clearance myself. So plenty of times I ask for a repeat.
I was just going to say that little piece of information that you just spouted is like priceless and we always say, it's a free call. If you receive a clearance to an altitude and you think to yourself all of a sudden, would you double check that altitude clearance? I mean, were we cleared to descend from 3.5 to 3.3? And then the person makes another radio call and says, "Hey, we just want to verify that we are cleared to flight level 330 or whatever." And then usually the air traffic controller will come back and say, "Thank you for asking," because it's just so much easier to have an extra one or two radio calls there just to make sure everybody was on the same page, and then you don't have all that paperwork afterwards, or possibly even an accident. Takeoff clearance is one of those that if you're not absolutely sure, just swallow your pride and say, "Would you mind, just for my, for make me feel better, ask the tower controller again that we are clear. Are we clear for takeoff?"
There's zero harm in saying just confirm takeoff clearance or confirm whatever it is that you're looking for. And I do that all the time flying in a Bravo airspace because we need that clearance to enter the Bravo airspace. And when you're doing it all day, every day, and oftentimes talking to the same controller, sometimes you just don't hear those magic words that you're looking for, even though you know that that's kind of what they meant to say. But it's better just to have it said without any doubt or uncertainty.
Exactly. I'd rather be that annoying pilot that continuously asks for everything to be stated twice. Now, I don't do that. But no. I'm not saying that that's you. I'm just saying, especially
sometimes it's me, but I'd rather ask it than,
There are a couple of things as well that would have made life a little easier for them. Now, I've been to airports where they do exactly what they do here at Toronto, and that is that the ground controller that the 777 was on a different frequency does his coordination with the tower controller who's controlling the runway, and they sort of get an agreement between the two that it's safe for him to cross his aircraft. So that the two pilots involved weren't on the same frequency. But I've also been to plenty of other airports, just as the same size as Toronto or even bigger, where the ground controller will hand you to the tower controller because you're about to cross his runway and he wants everyone on his frequency. Now, had that happened and the 777 was there and given clearance to cross the runway by the tower controller, the Dash 8 captain might well have heard that, and it would have given him the essay that an aircraft was crossing his runway. So when his FO said, "Yeah, we got takeoff clearance," he'd say, "Well, actually, I just heard that 777 might be crossing our runway. Can we double check that?"
Right. Now, there's not a guarantee that when you have everybody on the same frequency that people are going to actually hear everything, but there's a much better chance of it when you are on the same frequency. Yeah, obviously, there's a zero chance of it when you're not. And I agree with Nick. That's one of my pet peeves. I want to hear everything that has to do with my runway, whether I'm waiting for somebody or I'm waiting for takeoff or I'm about to land, and all of a sudden I see somebody crossing my runway and I'm thinking, where did that come from? I'm not hearing that.
Particularly on this runway where you're quite likely to be out of sight of the aircraft that's crossing further down, as was the case here. They couldn't see the aircraft. I mean, whenever we do a runway crossing, we always bang all our lights on so that if, just in case, an accident like this is about to happen, people stand a chance of seeing us. And obviously the same for the aircraft. This is one of the reasons why we turn our lights on just prior to takeoff, so that the aircraft that's crossing can see that there's an aircraft there, and he'll be, oh God, is that guy moving? No, I think we're safe. We can carry on, even though they've got a clearance. Finally, I was going to say that their explanation of why the first officer sort of had this bias, this expectation bias towards receiving a clearance, I can understand it because I've been in just that situation, but I'm not sure if it's, it might be a reason, I'm not sure if it's an excuse, because the actions that we take as a crew when we line up to take off are, generally speaking, exactly the same. We do the same checks, we get a clearance, we might even get an amended clearance, and we get a takeoff clearance. It's all part of the job. And if you can't manage your mental processes through that, then you might be doing something a little bit wrong in your own mind. You're not compartmentalizing your duties. And the one thing you should be absolutely certain you've received is the takeoff clearance. So if you're not absolutely certain that you've done that, then you need to stop and go, no, I'm not sure.
Yeah, very good. There was some point in this analysis by the TSB that talked about the captain, kind of being distracted a little bit, ensuring that the first officer was doing all of her checklists correctly and her flows and that kind of thing. And I'm thinking, you know what? That your emphasis at this point should be on you're taxiing the airplane, you're positioning the airplane for takeoff. You should be completely listening to the communications there. I mean, that to me, that's all on him. He should.
I mean, when I read through this, it sounded like the impression that I got was that they were just a bit disorganized, like they weren't quite on the ball,
and kind of rushed as well.
Kind of rushed. Yep.
And you know what? Instead of
what's the reason
asking
for
the
rushing?
FO, I mean, because it was a very short taxi out, and they were, I don't know why they were so rushed.
So
but
still, what's the reason? Take the time you need. It's not going to be that much extra time.
And he took the time though to ask the first officer if they were clear for takeoff. It could have been, he could have easily have just hit the radio switch and said, confirm, Air Georgia flight, whatever, clear for takeoff, runway 33 right.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of...
Out of interest, I contacted Adam, wonderfully friendly and very knowledgeable air traffic controller, about the, what's the name of that system? The RIMCAS system.
Oh, the RIMCAS, the one in this situation. Okay.
So I asked him what the tower controller, because apparently they got a level 1 alert, and I wondered what that was and why the tower controller hadn't spotted that. Level 1 alert is when the same runway is occupied by two aircraft, or an aircraft and a vehicle or whatever. And it's only an amber warning or a yellow warning. It comes up on the radar display, and it's independent. It's a independent system, that air traffickers have to warn them. So it's not requires anyone's input. It will happen automatically. And that's kind of a stage 1. The stage 2 happens when one of the aircraft, i.e. the taking off aircraft, hits about 40 knots. And then it comes up with a red warning, and there's an oral warning as well. So I was just a little surprised that they got to the speed they did, because if 40 knots had appeared and the warning happened, I would have assumed the tower would have immediately realized, unless he's got his attention diverted to several runways, perhaps he does control several runways, I don't know. And it took him a while to reorientate on what the potential problem was. But I would have thought the closing speed of 40 knots was relatively slow, whereas they actually got to, 90 odd knots? which
Well, actually,
seems quite-
I think I did mention the fact that this tower controller was controlling both runways, and that after he told them to line up, his attention was now on 33 left, the 777 rolling out, the Dash 8 coming in behind him, and it wasn't until he received this audible warning from the Rimcast system that his attention was brought back to the runway, and then interestingly, their policy states that a controller initiated aborted takeoff is an extreme measure used only where no clear alternative exists. In this occurrence, although MATS requires an abort takeoff instruction to be issued when the Stage 2 alert is triggered, the tower controller chose not to issue an abort instruction, but rather issued a takeoff clearance because he assessed that there was no risk of collision. So I guess I'm not sure that they really have the flexibility to make a decision one way or another. It sounds to me like when that Stage 2 alert is activated that he is supposed to issue an abort instruction, I guess regardless of how fast the airplane is going. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that's probably the safest thing to do because, different types of aircraft might have different roles and you really aren't actually certain. He's probably pretty experienced and he probably had a good idea where the CRJ was going to, not a CRJ, I keep getting... It was a CRJ.
It's a CRJ.
Yeah, CRJ 200. You call it a Dash 8 before, but I'm sure they take no
He probably
offense.
had a pretty good idea where it was going to be and where it would get airborne. And the fact that 777 had more or less cleared the runway, it was probably a fair thing to do. But the crew in the cockpit of the CRJ, having initiated an abort, if they suddenly got a takeoff clearance, could they suddenly go, we're clear now, let's turn this abort into a takeoff again, which would have put them in a dreadful situation.
Yeah,
That would not have been a
bad
good
thing.
situation.
Yeah, they did the right thing by saying, you know what, even though I just heard him say clear for takeoff, we've already initiated the abort, so that's what we have to stick with.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was looking through some things, and I noticed that just recently in, what was it? It was either on Aviation Herald or Aviation Safety Network. In October of last year, not that long ago, there was another incident at Toronto Pearson International, and this time it involved a Jazz Dash 8. Maybe this is what you were thinking about, Nick, even though you haven't heard any of this. But I did get some live ATC communication from this particular incident. And again, you can kind of hear how confusing this might be, especially if you're kind of expecting certain things to happen in a certain sequence.
Jazz 603, tower, line up runway 05, airborne left turn, heading 360.
Hey, line up 05, airborne left heading 360, Jazz 603. Well, for Jazz 603.
He said rolling.
Jazz 603, departure 128.8.
Hey, Jazz 603. Tower, Jazz 603.
Jazz 603, tower.
You did clearance to take off, correct?
You never got an official takeoff clearance, but there was nothing there, so I didn't want to disrupt your roll, so...
Yeah, so that, again, same airport, different runway. That was runway 05. And apparently there wasn't really a lot going on at that time, thankfully.
So to me, the confusing thing is that the line up and wait instruction came in the middle of all the departure, or it came before that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I guess that sounds to me like it's kind of a normal thing that happens.
I'm trying to think how I normally
airport.
hear it, and now I'm not certain, but it seems like it's normally all that information and then line up and wait.
Yeah, but here it's a little bit different here because I don't know if you noticed or not, but in both of these instances, it wasn't a line up and wait clearance. It was just a line up clearance. They just say line up. They don't use the term wait. And I don't know at what point they're required to say line up and wait, and when they can just say line up. But yeah, it kind of gives you that.
The same thing though. If you're just told to line up and not given a takeoff clearance, you're by default waiting.
Yeah, and you hear airborne heading 360, contact departure. I mean, I can easily see.
Yeah, I could see that.
Human factor there.
I could very much see that.
Yeah. So
most of the clearances that require those final bit of instructions just as you're about to take off, in my experience, they usually give that clearance and then they go clear to take off. That's the final thing you get is a clearance to take off. It would be useful in both of these cases if after the clearance they said, and continue to hold.
Exactly.
So that, it would take away that bias. Oh, this isn't a takeoff clearance. They want me to continue to wait would be probably the correct terminology.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I think the instruction for what you're supposed to do, whether it's hold, wait, take off, should come at the very end of all of that. Because that's the last thing your brain's going to remember. If the last thing you hear is, once airborne, this, you're going to go, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Mind you, I know plenty of pilots that would be halfway down the runway by the time they're finished giving that departure.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah. Oops.
Whoops.
Oh, boy. Hey, just a quick timeout to acknowledge our live audience while we're recording this show today on the 20th of January. Dari over there said he expected more chatter here. But Dari, you're over there on Facebook, and I think most of the people that are watching the show are, considerably more, about 5 times the number over on YouTube. So I would personally go over to YouTube and join the chat room there. And then
There's better beer on YouTube as well.
Better beer on YouTube. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah. You learn something new every day.
Oh, where's the coffee shop gone?
Liz was saying that my coffee shop was flashing in the background.
Oh, really?
So, is my video still flashing, Liz? No? Okay. Yeah. Liz basically said that she didn't like the coffee shop, so have to make her happy. She doesn't like coffee apparently, right now, this time of day. Is there a tea shop?
She's had a bottle of champagne, so she's probably not making the best of decisions.
Yeah. So how many bottles of champagne have you had today, Liz? Just wondering.
Just one, yeah.
One glass? Right. Big glass. That's okay. I believe you.
I mean, it's the glass that holds the entire bottle, correct?
Yeah, because we all know
I love those kind of glasses.
champagne goes flat after a while, so you got to drink it all in one.
I have one of those wine glasses that's like a very large goblet, and
It holds the entire bottle.
oh man, like I switched to beer, and I took a 12-ounce beer and poured it in, and it maybe filled half of it. I'm thinking, oh wow, that's a lot of liquid in there. Yeah,
Love
so
it.
if I fill that thing 3/4 full, that's probably about 500 and some odd milliliters or more. I just put in a glass, which is getting darn close to a full bottle of wine. I'm at the half-hour mark. Thank you, Liz. We're at the half-hour mark.
We've done.
Wow,
we
we've
haven't
done
finished
one
the first
news
news
item.
Guess we better hurry up
Good
then.
start
Oh, I
today.
see. I'm now reading between the lines.
Yeah, that was
Talking so much about this stuff.
that was a hurry up, don't wait.
Hurry up and don't wait. Okay, good point. All right. Well, there you go. I think we learned something from these instances. And just don't. It's just not safe to fly in Canada. Apparently, is what we. Just kidding. Item B: Flybe Q400s to be converted into firefighters for Conair. Canadian aerial firefighting specialist Conair. Canadians again. You can tell that we have a producer director that lives in Canada. A lot of our news items tend to kind of focus on Canada for some reason. Anyway, that group, that Canadian firefighting specialist group, has emerged as a buyer of 11 Bombardier Q400 turboprops formerly operated by UK regional carrier Flybe. The aircraft had been the subject of a sale arranged through Skyworld Aviation, which has disclosed its appointment to market the vintage aircraft. Vintage? Dating from 2007 through 2009 in August last year. Now, hang on. How is that a vintage airplane?
Well, it would put yours in the antique world, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's amazing. Anyway, Conair Group says it will start receiving them this month, stating that they will be converted to Q400 AT air tankers and join its firefighting fleet of 70 aircraft, which includes such types as the BAE Systems Avro RJ-85 and Convair 580. Now that's a vintage airplane there, the Convair 580. The purchase marks the most significant investment Conair has made to date towards developing a fleet of next-generation aircraft designed to better fight wildfires for years to come.
Well,
And,
now wait a
so-
minute. Vintage aircraft or next generation aircraft? What are we? I'm so confused.
fleet of, oh yeah, wait a minute. How can you use the same terms in the same article? One wonders.
Don't know.
If you're a lazy journalist, perhaps.
Oh, I can't believe you said that, Nick. I mean, they're all very hardworking. They go into excruciating detail determining all the.
Well, at
correct
least it's
facts
not a
and-
747. He's got a picture of the.
That's true. This is actually a Q400 pictured, if you're watching the video. Good looking airplane, and has a little bit of a leak. I think somebody should look into that after they land. But other than that,
Yeah,
Good
well,
to go.
that's one hell of a way to dump fuel. Yeah.
yes. But the good part is that it dumps very quickly. You don't have to take a lot of time dilly-dallying around waiting
That's
for
true.
the
You
fuel
better
to-
get the valve shut at just the right moment, though.
Yes. Let's see. Primary feature of this Q400 AT is a 10,000 liter retardant tank. That's a lot.
10,000 liters.
Yeah, so that's like
I don't know how much that is.
3.75. So 10,000 times divided
10
by
metric tons.
3.75.
That's pretty good.
I don't know. A couple thousand gallons.
I'm just
Right.
picturing like 2-liter bottles of soda and 5,000.
Oh yeah,
of
that's
those.
the most accurate way to do it, Steph.
I have no other frame of reference.
I'll see if I'll just try to find a picture of 10,000 liter bottles of
5,000.
Coke.
Yeah.
Oh, just 5,000.
Well, 'cause they're 2 liter bottles.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so I'm going to say 10,000 divided by 3.75. That is approximately 2,666 gallons.
Okay, much better. I can understand that.
That's a lot. Anyway, so that's kind of cool. They're not letting these airplanes, get unused.
Well,
And,
at the moment, this is a growing business, isn't it? I mean, considering the number of really bad forest fires we had last year, yep, going to need every airplane they've got.
There you go. Of course, nothing beats that 727, in my opinion. Yeah. All right. Moving right along, Liz. More than 1,000 jobs lost at Gatwick as Norwegian Airlines abandons the long-haul network. This is from The Independent. More than 1,000 pilots and cabin crew working at Gatwick for the budget airline Norwegian are learning they have lost their jobs. The Oslo-based airline is to abandon its transatlantic and Asian network of long-haul flights, many of them based at the Sussex airport. Around 1,100 UK crew will be made redundant, that's been the case all along, actually, along with a similar number in France, Italy, Spain, and the U.S. Oh, and the U.S. The firm says future demand remains highly uncertain. Under these circumstances, a long-haul operation is not viable for Norwegian, and these operations will not continue. So you'll remember they have a fleet of long-haul Boeing 787 Dreamliners, which have been grounded since March of last year and will not fly again for Norwegian Airlines. Hopefully somebody out there will snap them up and put them to good use. But, a lot of people have said that they didn't think that, of course, COVID had a way of kind of causing a lot of heartache in many different industries, especially the airline industry. But even before COVID, there had been a lot of speculation, I think, from a lot of people that the long haul thing may not work in the long run for Norwegian. But again,
yeah, I think people thought they might have overextended themselves. They came into the market as a very new company at the point where aviation fuel prices were really low. Most established airlines who had hedged their fuel were still paying a considerably higher price than the current market price. Norwegian were able to take advantage of this, and they were extremely successful in their initial period and established a very large foothold in the market that a lot of airlines like Virgin Atlantic, found them now as a major competitor. So it was only once everyone else could get back on a bit of a more level playing field with fuel costs did Norwegian really start to feel the weight of competition. So it wasn't brilliant for them, but I'm sure that Virgin will be sighing a sigh of relief right now because they have been a real thorn in their sides up to this point.
I'll bet.
They were doing a lot of flying into like secondary airports too for larger cities, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Especially
that's
here in
right.
the- yeah.
But they were also competing on fairly direct routes with Virgin, for example.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was not comfortable. And, of course, I'm terribly sad for the folks that have worked for the airline. Geez, never want to see that happen. But, you know, perhaps the market is a bit full of aircraft right now. Someone
says that they plan to operate 50 Boeing 737 aircraft in 2021 this year, increasing to 70 next year. So looks like they're just going to focus on the shorter haul.
Yep.
All right. Continuing on, here's some good news. One of those good feel-good stories. When the Great Lakes Region Civil Air Patrol received a request from the Defense Coordinating Element at FEMA's Region 5 office in December 2020 to transport the COVID-19 vaccine by air to several locations in Wisconsin and Michigan, the unit was poised for action. The request to deliver the first and second rounds of the vaccine, or at least now the first, on behalf of the Indian Health Service, a Department of Health and Human Services agency responsible for healthcare, covering roughly 2.6 million American Indians and Alaska Natives belonging to 574 recognized tribes in 37 states. While vaccine transport by air on a large scale, think FedEx and UPS, has splashed through the news, that kind of aerial cargo service paints with a broad brush. In order to get the vaccine, the needed vaccine, into remote areas, a more precise tool is required. Enter general aviation, and specifically the CAP, the Civil Air Patrol. Put us in the game, said Civil Air Patrol Major Rod Rakic, one of the pilots detailed for the mission. We want to be utilized. We want to be the force multiplier. After all, that's why the CAP was created back in the 1940s, to supplement and aid the U.S. Air Force in a wide variety of critical tasks best suited for light, civilian-style aircraft. Have some pictures here of the mission while we discuss this. I think this is pretty cool that they're employing the Civil Air Patrol to do this.
Yeah, I suspect they're a much underutilized component, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's
Although
great
you'd be
that they've got...
surprised at how much they actually do every year.
They do
Really
quite
something.
a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And
You just don't hear about it.
As David in the chat room points out, they've been doing this all over the country with the Civil Air Patrol as well.
There's
so
a
probably not just
very-
isolated to Wisconsin and
Perhaps they need a new PR officer then.
Like David Ogden.
There you go.
Who was a
Great
very
job for you,
proud
David.
officer in the Civil Air Patrol. Yeah, he's a bigwig in the southern region. What are you doing there, Nick? Oh, okay. Trying to peer over the news. Just leave it there, Liz, if I were you. It's much better numbers when we can't see Nick's face. Just kidding, of course. Anyway, so there's that picture. Let me scroll through another one. Here's a picture of the inside of that previous exterior view of the airplane. Is that airplane stuff? Is that like the airplane that you fly, the Kodiak? Is that a Kodiak or is that a Caravan?
no.
What is that?
I don't know what it is.
It's hard
usually
to
they have
tell from that angle.
182s, but that's a weird angle. It looks bigger than... No, I don't know what
Yeah,
that is on the
didn't look
inside
like
there. I don't know.
Looks like a
That's
pretty
something
big
larger,
airplane.
but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know either. Okay.
I know what it is.
What is it?
It's a puddle jumping bug smasher.
Okay, there we go.
Ding, ding, ding.
The
I give him the
PJ
50% thumbs down on that one, Liz.
the PJBS.
Oh,
I think that
come
is
on.
referred to. Puddle jumping bug.
Someone
you go.
says
It's
it's
an air van.
It's a
It's
Gippsland
a
air van.
Gippsland air van. There you go.
That's an
Never-
Australian. What's an Australian airplane doing up there in the snow? It'll never cope with that.
Well, they have snow in Australia, don't they?
Well, only on the top of the Blue Mountains, and they're not very much of it.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, that's kind of a cool story. If you want to learn more about this, we'll put a link in the show notes for you. You know the deal.
Yeah, and well done, Civil Air Patrol. Good job, guys.
Good job.
And girls.
Yes. Volocopter, working toward FAA approval of Volocity eVTOL. German urban air mobility company Volocopter has received Federal Aviation Administration permission to pursue certification of its autonomous electric vertical takeoff and landing, or eVTOL, passenger drone for flights in the U.S. The company says on 15 January that in December, the FAA accepted its application for concurrent type certificate validation in both the USA and Europe. That means the company is working towards certification of its Velocity. Oh, I get it. Was I calling it Velocity? But I guess you could say it's Velocity aircraft
yes.
Velocity.
design in both jurisdictions. Is that what they're calling it? And then would you say Velocopter? Okay.
No, I would not actually.
You would not say that? Okay.
I would. I think it's great name. Velocopter.
Velocopter. Wait.
Velocopter.
Okay. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, Europe's aviation regulator, has already given its design organization approval, DOA. That's kind of a sad acronym.
Not a great acronym.
Somebody really didn't
think that one through.
DOA. We don't want one of those. The license to develop and build certified aircraft. That gives Volocopter a clear pathway to commercial certification of its aircraft. The company expects to launch operations in Europe in the next 2 to 3 years. But the USA is also a valued prize on every eVTOL or eVTOL maker's wish list. From the beginning, we have considered the U.S. an important market for our services, says Florian Reuter, the company's chief executive. Certification is the key to this market, and we are excited to begin the process of seeking approval from the FAA to introduce this innovative era of mobility, not only in Europe and Asia, but also in the U.S. Volocopter's Volocity, or Velocity, is an 18-motor, 2-passenger eVTOL air taxi, which the company says is designed to meet growing demand for a better intra-city mobility in large cities like Los Angeles, New York City, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C., among others. It hopes to provide scalable air taxi services that will someday compete in cost with automobile taxis. So there you go. Looks like they're making some forward progress in certifying these vehicles. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's about time we reached the age of the Jetsons and...
I know,
yeah,
right?
But I want my own. I don't want
things.
to employ someone to
No.
program it for me. I want to fly my own.
I'm trying to find, where are my Jetsons sound effects? I need to find them.
You
I
lost
know I got
that
them.
some months ago, Jeff, and you've never found
Did
it
I?
since.
And I haven't been able to find them since?
This is at least the third time I can remember you looking for
Okay,
it.
here we go. I'll just do it like this. This is the easiest way. I have a special search window set up for things like this. And I'll say
Jetsons.
Jetsons. And then I'll go, oh, there we go. Easy peasy.
And
Perfect.
whatever, these eVTOL or whatever they come up with, they need to make that sound. I just won't
They
accept
do.
anything
Yes, they do.
without
Be
Jetsons
very
sound
disappointed that
effects.
they don't. And
Absolutely.
George has got to be sure that he pushes the right buttons.
Oh, George, you pushed the wrong button again.
Why is she so happy about it?
Well,
I think that would be the right button if she was happy, but
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it was a
sure.
children's cartoon, but,
sure it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that Rosie, oh, never mind. Last item in our news, thankfully, this was an incident, and it happened last year in October. A Lufthansa cargo Boeing and I'm sorry we missed this. I just noticed it a couple of days ago. A Lufthansa cargo Boeing 777-200 freighter, registration Delta Alpha Lima Fox Golf Trot. I try that again. Delta.
That's what some
I'm
people
making
do
up
at the
my
golf
own.
course.
I'm
golf
making up
trot.
my own code. Delta Alpha Lima Fox Golf performing flight 8402 from Frankfurt, Main, Germany to Shanghai, Pudong, China, with 4 crew was in the initial climb out of Frankfurt's runway 25 center when the crew declared Mayday, Mayday, reporting unreliable airspeed. The crew subsequently inquired with ATC what their altitude readings were. The controller responded 200 feet. The crew reported their standby altimeter was indicating 6,100 feet. Wow, this thing's really climbing
Wow.
a lot better than it normally does.
6,000
Very
feet
accurate.
adrift.
Very accurate.
Yes.
And according to GPS, they were at 6,200 feet. So they should be around that altitude. The crew decided to return to Frankfurt. That's interesting. Why would the controller say they were only 200 feet?
Because that's where the feed for ADS-B comes from. One of the faulty systems, I suspect.
Gotcha. The aircraft dumped fuel and returned to Frankfurt for a safe landing on runway 7 center about 65 minutes after departure. According to ADS-B transmitted by the aircraft, it did not climb above 250 feet throughout the entire flight. Okay. On December 23rd, 2020, Germany's BFU reported the sensors of the left and right static system had not been connected. The occurrence was rated a serious incident and is being investigated by the BFU. And that's narrative from the Aviation Herald, and I also picked up this. We were talking about this before the recording started, that the Aviation Safety Network also had this little blurb. After landing, it was found that the sensors of the left and right static systems were not connected. During maintenance before the incident flight, the pneumatic lines of the static system were disconnected and flushed with dry air. The lines were then supposed to be reconnected to the system. To ensure proper functioning of the pitot-static system, a leak test and a system test were then scheduled. This work was signed off. The corresponding work cards had been carried out without any problems. The only problem is they actually didn't do the leak test and system test because they never did reconnect those static system lines.
Yeah. An unbelievably crass error.
Let's see, a little bit more detail about what happened here as they're rolling down the runway. They departed 25 center, took off at 204 knots indicated, 191 knots over the ground. About 15 seconds, a wind shear warning occurred, recorded by both the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, with 176 knots indicated and 199 knots over the ground. The first officer commanded max thrust. The commander acknowledged and informed ATC about the wind shear, stating that they now had 50 knots of wind on their tail. The first officer gradually reduced the pitch from about 11 to 7 degrees. The captain instructed to increase the pitch again. The first officer pointed at the airspeed and stated she didn't want to go slow. 178 knots indicated at the time. The captain was puzzled as the tailwind component indicated was now 80 knots, and despite maximum thrust, it was not possible to increase the airspeed. Ding, 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 ding.
Mm-hmm.
The captain, let's see, when the tailwind increased to 100 knots, the commander concluded, "This looks odd to me. I conclude this is unreliable airspeed." Captain took control of the aircraft, and the first officer assumed the role as pilot monitoring. And so they did a great job of analyzing the situation and taking the appropriate action, running the unreliable airspeed checklist, and thankfully got the airplane on the ground safely and without damage and without loss of life. So it worked out well. But
absolutely,
I can easily see this going the other way around.
Right?
Yeah, I know, because we have covered so many incidences of crews completely losing control of the aircraft, and this guy, my hat off to him, because it would not have been easy, because he's obviously concerned about wind shear warnings, but on the other hand, and it's very hard to ignore those warnings. On the other hand, this is looking completely impossible. So what else could it be? And I think his logic was perfect.
Yep. And that's why we talk about this all the time on the show. It's so important that you pilots out there pay attention to what your pitch picture looks like in certain phases of flight, and what the power. Should be, and what the corresponding performance instruments are telling you. And so that when you get in a situation like this and you're going, this doesn't look right at all, just go to 8.5 degrees nose high, and 80% on the power, 90%, whatever a normal climb picture would look like in your airplane, and go, okay, that should give me this performance. It's not. What's going on here? So yeah. But as you said, Nick, when you have a wind shear thing going off, I mean, all hell is breaking loose in that cockpit, and they're going, what is going on? And your brain's going, I don't understand this.
Yep, absolutely right. And it's interesting. I don't know what systems. I wish Rick was here. That the 777 have in the Airbus. Once you've got into a safe region of flight, the power and attitude is really there just to keep you from stalling the airplane or and get you safely away from the ground. You can then just reach up and turn off two of the air data computers, and the aircraft should go into a backup mode, which if you don't have standby instructions, it might actually, you might have to turn off all three. I can't quite remember now. But you can get up in a backup mode where your speed is indicated by angle of attack, or calculated from angle of attack, and your altitude is given to you direct from the GPS readout, assuming you've got one. And it makes it a very simple job now to fly the aircraft back and make an approach to land. Very safe, very simple. And this system has been dreamt up by Airbus purely as a result of the various crashes that have occurred because crews haven't been able to work out what's going on.
Well, thank goodness they've come up with a great system like that. And hopefully other manufacturers are in the process of coming up with a similar system.
I'm pretty sure they are, yeah. It's not an impossible thing to do by any means.
Just listening to Rick's description of systems on the 777 before, I'm sure the 777 has some interesting and clever ways.
Plus we can get him to comment on it next time he's on the show.
Sure.
Well, I was able to record, I got together with Rick. I'm not sure if he was going to be able to make it to the show or not. And I asked him this question, if he could explain a little bit of this to us in his absence.
For a number of years now, work has been proceeding in order to bring perfection to the crudely conceived idea of a transmission that would not only supply inverse reactive current for use in unilateral phase detractors, but would also be capable of automatically synchronizing cardinal grammeters.
So there, just a little excerpt. If you want to hear the whole thing, we'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Absolutely,
now, Rick said it a little bit different there. I think maybe, I don't know, he might have a little touch of COVID or something.
No, that's the voice he uses when he's going into major explanations. That's his lecturing voice.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think it's now time, thankfully, to get to this part of the show. This segment, my favorite, one of my favorites. Of course, my very favorite segment is Plane Tales, but this is my second favorite one. Getting to know us. So this is when we talk about what has been going on with all of us since the last episode, which was about, a week ago? I think. No. It was Saturday. It was only a few days ago. That's right. Barely had time to get the last episode edited and published before we were already trying to decide what we were going to do for this one. Thanks to Liz's wonderful. Did I add a few extra?
I don't know.
Syllables?
I think so.
Yeah. I have to say, my command of the language on today's show is
stellar.
Never
better.
It's never been better.
Well, it's causing great. It's causing great amusement, if nothing else.
Not only can I not read, I cannot speak either. So I do apologize. Any of you out there have been people that have said they listen to our show to help them improve their English. Well, this is one you need to skip. Yeah, oof.
Or, just a what not to do. How not to speak.
Yeah. Opposite day. Oh, all right. Well, I went first last time, so I'm not going to go first this time. So I'm going to ask Nick what he has been up to since the last time.
In the few days, I've written a plane tail. That's what I managed to do.
That's good. That's the most important thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Right?
Storm Christoph has just passed over us. It'll be getting through where I live at about midnight. That's been pretty heavy rain, and I do feel sorry for those folk in the middle of our country which have received the worst of it. And there were, I think when I last heard the news, somewhere around 80 or 90 major flood warnings up north. So if you live up that way and you live near a big river, my huge sympathies, and I, fingers crossed that you stay safe and well.
Is it all flowing down toward where you live?
Luckily,
that's how it works, right? Like,
it goes down the map. Yes.
Yeah. It does, north to south.
If you're
That's the way it
here,
works.
Okay.
you're
Yeah, that's
down
right.
here, just gravity.
It just makes sense to me.
Absolutely. But
That's definitely how gravity works.
No, very little else. Looking for a subject for the next tale, but and I'm just going to mention it again afterwards. But thanks to main man Micah, he's currently in the chat room. It was his idea to do this particular plain tale, so shout out for him, and a shout out, of course, for Sebastian and his podcast that I'm going to appear on the 26th. Which day?
Are we
next?
still talking about that thing?
Yeah, we are, because it hasn't happened yet. Which is next
means
Tuesday.
We have to hear about it at least one more time.
We do, next Tuesday. And I think we'll get away. This will be the last time, I think. Unless you have the show of the weekend.
We'll talk about it again after the fact.
Of course
then
you
we'll
will.
point everybody to it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's happening live on his YouTube channel on what is it? Air Crash.
Isn't it
podcast?
the 26th?
On the 26th at 7:30 Central European time.
That's a Tuesday.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Very good.
And I believe we'll be discussing the Tenerife catastrophe. So that's about it, really. That's all I've got.
Interesting. Okay, and so thank you, Micah. Nice tale. Let's see.
Does Micah provide all your nice tale?
And speaking of, oh no, I can't do that.
Awkward.
So let's say some other things, and then we'll forget the very, very inappropriate segue. Thank you.
Jeff,
how's everything been going with you?
Never better.
Okay, that's it. All right.
I was struggling while Nick was at least Nick's done a plain tale in the past few days to have something to talk about.
What have you done?
I've done lots of things, but none of it is actually any information that I can. The sensor has gone bad somewhere on one of my. There's beeping in the background that I'm going to have to go take care of here in a moment. Hopefully you can't hear that.
No.
Nothing to do with anything there. But yeah, in the past, how many days was that? 4? 5?
Yeah, not a lot. 5 maybe.
I was very productive getting some housework done over the weekend. Just a lot of declutter. You can't tell from this room because most of the clutter ended up in this room, but in other places, decluttering. Just trying to make things neat and tidy. Had a weekend of not doing anything, which was very nice. I don't get that very often. Lots of work stuff going on, but not anything that's relevant to the show and not anything that I can share at the moment. So, but stay tuned in like a couple months.
All right. Well, usually your segment is just packed full of amazing things.
All the things. Well, this I'm taking some perhaps deserved downtime at the moment. So
yeah,
I'm sorry that it's
definitely deserved.
Not very exciting though.
No, that's okay. Mm-hmm. Makes Nick and my life much more exciting sounding. And
happy to
absolutely
watch out for that.
You haven't been running, Steph?
No, I've done something to my foot, which is not great. It hurts a lot. Saw my physical therapist about it yesterday. But mostly I'll be on the bike for the next little while here, not running, just trying to get some rest. I think it's a tendonitis issue, to be honest, but it's really pretty tender, pretty sore. It doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I kind of had an issue like that a few weeks back, and I had no idea what I did to it, and I have no idea what fixed it. It just started.
I woke up with it, to be honest. I didn't do anything specific. It wasn't any one instant while I was running. It wasn't even close in time to a recent run. I had run like 24 hours prior to that and was fine after that last run that I did. And then, I don't know, woke up.
You're right,
put my
Liz.
foot down
It
on the
could have
ground and I
been,
went, ah.
Liz, it could have been one of those long runs that I was on. You're right. That may have been
Like that 20
Yeah, my
miler?
marathon training. That might have been where I injured my foot. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it's my turn then.
Your turn.
Today is the 20th anniversary of podcasting. Happy
Hooray!
anniversary!
Happy
Yay!
birthday to us.
Happy birthday to us.
Cheers.
Of course, we weren't podcasting 20 years ago.
Sure, it feels like it.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes these shows, it feels like 20 years long. But I know that many of you listening are going, oh, yeah, I hear that. Anyway, I don't know how I found this blog post by this gentleman regarding the history of podcasting. And I thought it was interesting because it's something that I've been involved in since, well, indirectly. I started getting involved in podcasting back in 2005 and started my own podcast back in 2009. And so that's kind of cool.
Podcasting was only 8 years old when you started.
Yeah.
That's good.
But I'll tell you what, though, most people, well, even nowadays, if you ask people, what a podcast is, most people just kind of look at you with a blank stare. But back then it was even worse. People had never heard of the term. When I got, 2005, it was a very, very new thing, a new technology, a new media. And
I don't know. I think most people nowadays know what podcasting is, or at least they're
Yeah, you're
familiar
probably
with
right.
it being
Probably most do.
like
Yeah.
something they can listen to on their mobile device, download off the internet, something along those lines. They might not know of any podcasts, but I think they're familiar enough with the.
It was Adam
medium.
Curry as the bloke that kicked it off, isn't it?
Well, he and Dave Weiner. Dave Weiner has
Isn't
come
it
up with.
Weiner?
I think it's Weiner.
Okay.
Whiner, and I've heard his name pronounced in several audio shows over the years. So I'm 100% sure it's Dave Weiner. He was the one that came up with this whole. Back then, it was kind of the infancy of just regular blogging. And because the internet was still, a new thing, and he came up with a way of syndicating these non-audio blogs. And then Adam Curry, kind of a radio guy, he was a MTV VJ for many years. He, Lane says, I think this show started 20 years ago.
This particular
lot,
one
Lane.
right now. It's been
Yeah,
20
I know.
years since we've
Absolutely.
been
That's
doing
why
this.
my beard's so long.
When we started the show, Nick
I
didn't
was
have a
clean
beard.
shaven.
I didn't have gray hair.
I wasn't even born yet, so I don't know.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
You're young, but you're not that young. Anyway,
No, I'm sadly not that young.
to find out, it's so much better for me just to tell you to hit this link that I'm going to have in the show notes to kind of learn about the whole birth and infancy and how this whole thing came about. But you are right, sir. Adam Curry had a big part to do with it. So anyway, no need to spend. Yes, it was. It was.
Hats off to Adam.
George Bush's inauguration 20 years
Oh,
ago.
yes, that's right. Yes.
Anyway, so there you go. Happy podiversary, I think is what Tanya W. in the chat room said. So thank you very much. As far as myself, I'm on vacation, a much, much needed vacation. Because
You've been working so hard.
Finally,
You know, I'm just going to say, I really am in the wrong profession.
Yeah,
I get up every
definitely.
day. I go to work from like 8 to 5, afternoon time. And every day, though,
Steph, have we
pilots
not?
are just constantly on vacation or retired or
Have we
days
not
off.
mentioned to you
Or we're
many,
not
many
feeling well.
times that you should do this?
No, many times.
Right?
I'm working.
Okay.
On it.
So why don't you listen to us?
Well,
Yes, it's a wonderful lifestyle. Now, it's not all goodness and, what do they call it? All
Not sweetness and
rainbows
light.
and
rainbows and unicorns. That's it. That's
Unicorns.
what I was looking for. I don't know what I would do without Liz. I'd be just.
I got half of it. Rainbows and
you did.
sunshine and rainbows.
I'd be a
Sunshine
blithering
and
idiot. Thank you.
lollipops.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. I'm not doing a thing. Oh, I did take a Sunday afternoon drive, which Nick, you would have loved. Ended up in the North Georgia mountains, and I took a wrong turn, and then I had to kind of cut back on a different road that I had not planned on driving upon, and it was amazingly fun. I mean, talking about super tight turns and switchbacks and everything else, had a lot of fun.
That would have been great for me until the police stopped me and asked me why I was breaking lockdown.
Well, yeah. And yeah, why are you here in the United States when you're not supposed to be here?
That's right. How did you
Might
get
have been
there?
some complications. But I promise you that when this whole thing clears up and you get over here, we need to go up to those roads that I was on Sunday afternoon, and you'll have a grin on your face that it will be lasting for quite some time.
Sounds fabulous.
sure.
Can I rent a Harley Davidson?
Well, you can.
Do you know how to ride a Harley Davidson?
I'm not going to be there with
yes,
you.
of course.
I'm not going to ride on it, and I'm not going to be on a motorcycle. You can just have fun with that.
Yeah. I used to rent them
trust
around
myself.
LA, and even took Jilly on a trip out there. We rode around a Harley, beautiful big electric glide around there.
That little roadster that you have would have been awfully fun to be driving.
Oh yeah,
on
absolutely.
those
Well,
roads.
that would have been good too.
Anyway, so there you go. I have a trip scheduled next week. Believe it or not, I'm actually going to go back to work for a living on Tuesday of next week. So there you go.
Good news.
Yeah. All right. I guess I need to kind of get back into the books a little bit and see if I remember exactly how to get to the cockpit once I'm on the airplane. And then what I'm supposed to do when I'm sitting in my chair. Which side do I sit on again? I don't remember. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, that's it. So without further ado, I think now it's time for us to continue with the feedback segment.
Or the coffee fund?
Except unless there was something else I should do before
What
I do
have
the
you
feedback.
been drinking?
I don't know what's wrong with
He
me.
said, we're missing out here, Nick.
Yeah, I know
there's
we
something-
are. I need to
I'm not
get a
even
few
doing
more of
drugs
these
or
beers
anything.
down because
All I've
I
had
know.
today
I'm
was
way
coffee.
behind today, I think.
It might be, Liz is thinking this might be the after effects of COVID.
COVID.
They do say that it takes a while for it to kind of completely, I have some cobwebs still here, obviously. All right.
Right, because I need my
You know what
pee
we sh-
breaks
Well, you can take your pee break. Okay.
during the coffee fund.
All right. Here we go. You know what time it is? It's time for us to talk about those fine folks that are part of the Coffee Fund cadre, the Coffee Bar Fund, what we like to call, well, that. Take 3 or 2. You know what? I think it's time now that we talk about those fine folks that contribute to the show financially, and we call them the Coffee Fund cadre. And Jeff Smith is here to sing
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
the APG Java Jive.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the APG community. Coffee and tea, and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jeff Smith, for singing. I love your musical talent. And I also love the people that are members of the Coffee Fund cadre. A couple different ways to do that. One is the Coffee Fund Classic Method. And since the last episode, we have David Schroeder, Jenny Parkinson, Chris Randall, and David Lieb. Yay. Thank you, everyone, for using the Coffee Fun Classic method to contribute to our show. We do appreciate that. And the other way to support the show financially is via Patreon. And we have a new producer since the last episode, John Schroeder. Thank you for becoming a patron. You want to learn more about Patreon and the Coffee Fun Classic method, easiest thing for you to do is to head over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. Usually I talk much more than in today's episode. Yeah. You should join the coffee. You'll be glad you did. And we will too.
Please contribute to Jeff's
audio dubbing, overdubbing.
I don't know what Jeff needs. Some sort of counseling, therapy, speech therapy, reading
You know what
lessons.
the problem is? I haven't had alcohol in, I don't know.
Are we sure of that?
16 hours.
Well, it's
never too late to
never
start.
too early to have a beer.
It is 5 o'clock here. 5:30.
I got a little stitch in my side. I'm not doing anything, but I have a stitch in my side.
This is just the episode where
I
Jeff
know.
just falls apart completely. Like,
I swear, it's like I was out running and I got a stitch. I am falling apart.
I mean,
Welcome
that
to the
happens to me,
last
but usually
year.
while running.
The last year of the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
Well, it's been a
The
good
last
run.
episode of the
Yeah,
Airline
that's more
Pilot
like
Guy
it.
Show. Too much blood in his alcohol system. Yes, you're right, Lane. Okay. So Liz is taking the dog out. I don't have to wait for Liz. We can continue with feedback. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go.
Go for it.
Captain, incoming message.
All right. Is Laura Davis in the live audience today, or is she out
She
there
is
actually
not
working?
She's probably working.
No, I haven't seen
Working
it.
or sleeping? One or the
Probably
other.
on her way to work, actually.
Yeah. Anyway, she sent this one in, and I think I know why.
She told us why.
The all-women Air India crew that flew the historic San Francisco Bengaluru flight. I think I got that right. Bengaluru?
Bengaluru?
That was the caption for this photo. A crew of 4 women made history as they landed at Kempegowda International Airport I still have the stitch, with Air India's longest direct route flight on Monday. Captain Zoya Agarwal said today, we created world history by not only flying over the North Pole, but also by having all women pilots who successfully did it. We are extremely happy and proud to be part of it. This route has saved 10 tons of fuel. A Union Minister for Civil Aviation, Hardeep Singh Puri, tweeted, "Way to go, girls. Professional, qualified, and competent." The all-women
That's a
cockpit
perfect
crew.
way to address an all-female professional.
I know. Way to go, girls.
Pilot crew.
I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt because it was Twitter and girls is shorter than women. So, you're limited on your...
Okay.
You could have
Ladies.
just done
Ladies,
what everybody
yeah.
on YouTube
Yeah.
does. Hey, guys.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Professional, qualified, and confident. The all-women crew takes off from San Francisco to Bengaluru on Air India's flight to fly over the North Pole. Our Nari Shakti achieves a historic first. Air India said this will be the longest commercial flight in the world to be operated by it or any other airline in India. And now I'm trying to figure out what exactly was it that was history making. Haven't there been flights over the North Pole before? I guess.
It's
know,
the
maybe
Air
not this
India's
segment.
longest direct flight. So it's the longest commercial flight in the world to be operated by an Indian airline. Am I got that right? And
There
the
you go.
fact was it was flown by an all-lady crew. So that's brilliant.
That's just gravy, right?
And Liz also points out that girls and women have the same number of letters in the words.
Okay.
Well done.
Math is difficult for me. No, the real
I missed
reason that
that
Laura
math
Davis
problem.
sent this in though, was because she wanted to hear us pronounce some of these names and places.
These are
'cause she
actually
knows-
pretty
Yeah, those weren't
straightforward
too
words.
bad. But that was her real
Yeah.
motivation for it. But
Yeah, thanks a lot, Laura.
are you
Sorry to
okay, Jeff?
disappoint.
I'm really like worried about you right now.
I don't know what I've done to give myself a stitch. Maybe standing. I'm not used to standing.
You
up.
have
That's the
pulled
problem.
an intercostal muscle through laughing too much.
That's got to be it. I'm enjoying my time so much with you and the live audience that
Yeah, that's what it is.
my body just can't handle it. Okay, let's go with that. All right, moving on. Doug says, longtime listener of 10 years. Woo! Love your podcast. Hope you are all well in these uncertain times. My question is about the maximum payload freight carrying ability of your current and X aircraft. When you perform the weekly APG Coffee Fund Bullion flight from Atlanta to Geneva, can you load the Mad Dog up to max gross weight just with hold cargo, gold bricks, old school, no Bitcoin here? It's a lot easier with Bitcoin. You don't have to worry about any weight whatsoever. Without any passengers or the passengers required for C of G limits compliance, center of gravity limits compliance. I'm assuming it's a volume issue, not weight. However, I would be interested to hear your thoughts. Keep up the good work. Your show has played a massive role in keeping my aviation dreams alive for commercial pilot license and beyond. And for that, I am so grateful. Dormant and frustrated PPL in Glasgow, Scotland.
PPL brackets H, he's a helicopter pilot.
Oh, is that what that stands for? The H?
Yeah.
Helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I was
What's he
wondering
doing on
about
this show?
I don't know, but you know,
Go to opposing bases. They've got a helicopter pilot there.
He's bumped
Although he
his
doesn't
head
fly
several
helicopters
times.
anymore.
No, I know. The damage was done.
You're very nice, Doug, but you're both Scottish and a helicopter pilot, so I'm not sure. I'm sure Jeff will let you stay.
Yeah. Yes,
Hey,
Liz
I'm
is saying,
HR around here.
I'm
You can
offended.
say.
Incoming. We get our fair share of that every week for sure. You know, you might as well just address it to Nick. And just
No,
skip the
that's
whole
all right.
offended
That's fine.
thing.
No. I get enough bad emails from Scotland as it is.
You know, I meant to do the homework on this. I have no idea what the maximum cargo load would be on the Mad Dog nor the Boeing 717, but I can tell you that if it's gold bricks, that I'm sure it would weight out before it volume or cubed out, because the density, the weight density of gold bullion must be pretty high, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what would have happened for us. I'm almost certain there's you're quite capable of maxing out an aircraft's takeoff weight just in cargo, assuming the cargo's dense enough, without having to put any passengers on. Yeah, definitely. So it's just a matter of finding the right stuff that doesn't bulk out the cargo hold before you get to max takeoff weight.
I guess is the question a little bit of, if you have stuff in the cargo hold, do you need anything on the main deck for
I don't think so.
weight and balancer, center of gravity? I wouldn't think so either. But
I would imagine they could arrange it so that the cargo took care of
work out
that
okay.
envelope.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I would think so too.
But you know, on a narrow body airplane such as the one I fly, you know, you're not going to get a lot of cargo weight on it. Now, some of the big jets like the 777 and I would imagine the A340-600 probably had some pretty impressive cargo carrying capability. In addition,
we did. The cargo hold on the 600 was bigger than that of a 747-400.
Wow.
So that cargo hold on that big old jumbo, they used to quite quickly run out of space before they ran out of weight. It was a very big cargo hold in our aircraft, so we didn't have that problem. That's one of the reasons, the cargo boys always loved the Airbuses, because they could shift a lot of cargo in addition to the passengers. So
there you go.
Yeah,
make some extra money.
Absolutely.
The C-141 Starlifter that I flew in the Air Force, by the time I was assigned the airplane and trained on it, they were all, with a couple of exceptions, pretty much all C-141B models, and that was like a 20 to 25 foot extension of the fuselage of the airplane. And that was, they tell me, the reason for that is that the A model would always cube out or volume out before it exceeded the max weight carrying capability of it. So they said, let's go ahead and add this 20 to 25 feet, whatever it is. I used to know the exact feet and inches for the extension. I just don't remember now. But that kind of put it more in line with most or more of the cargo that they tended to carry in that airplane. And so they were able to, you know, weight out and volume out at about the same point. So again, it all has to do with the density of the cargo, obviously. But as far as bullion is concerned, no worries. Not getting a lot of that. And Bitcoin, apparently, Liz was telling me that PayPal has some kind of facility for all of you out there to send us Bitcoin for your coffee fund contribution. However, I did some research, couldn't figure out how to do that. So if anybody out there knows, let me know, and then everybody can send me Bitcoin or send us Bitcoin.
We prefer that, actually, because apparently it appreciates in value rapidly.
Quite a bit. There was a YouTube channel that I watch sometimes, and she's a weightlifter, exercise enthusiast, and also I think she's more of a comedian than anything else. She talked about the fact that somebody had given her like one Bitcoin was like a $50.
Oh, it was like $30 in Bitcoin or $50 in Bitcoin or something.
Yeah.
Like in 2013 or something.
Not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then she checked on it, and it turns out that $50 Bitcoin was now, well, when she checked on it, was like 11,000, and then just a couple of months after that, it was close to 40,000.
34,000, yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, that's amazing. But I would imagine that it's just as easy for it to go from 40,000 to zero in a day's time.
Yeah, I think it's a little volatile.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
1,206
£1,206 for a cubic foot of gold. Wow. iHaul Boxes comes to the plate. Steps up to the plate with the density of gold. That's
yeah, I was just going to mention what Mayman Micah says, that one of our podcasting heroes, Leo Laporte, has got a whole bunch of Bitcoin on a hard drive, and he can't remember what the password is.
The password. You know what? I just read an article just a couple of days ago specifically addressing this, that there are many, many people out there, and most of them very well-heeled people, so I guess it's not a big deal that they're missing it, but the fact that there are just literally millions or even billions worth of Bitcoin out there that is unattainable by these people because they've forgotten their passwords.
Oh, yeah, there was a Times article only a couple of days ago about a guy who had 8 goes at guessing his password, and he'd been rejected each time. He only had 2 more goes left, and then he'd be locked out of his account permanently.
Forever.
And it actually made a plea for people who are very clever in cryptography and hackers and things to help him try and work out what his password is.
He gave a reward with his millions of dollars or millions.
Well, I think I think there was a financial incentive there.
Must be. Yeah.
And he's terrified because 2 more goes, that's it, and then he loses the lot.
Oh, I know. That just must be. I can't imagine. Can't imagine. Of all the passwords to lose,
forget.
Yeah, or forget. Oh, anyway. So thank you,
Yeah.
Doug.
Anyway, but by the way, Helicopter Doug, sorry about that. I didn't really mean to insult Scotland or helicopter pilots. You're all fine people.
Yes, he did.
Okay, the new.
What did you just say? Are you having a stroke again?
Well, I'm no worse than you.
No, that's true. Okay, moving on.
I can't
Ian.
actually give any sort of medical help through podcasting. Like,
you can't.
StreamYard
You could diagnose him and tell him to go to the emergency room if he does
call
anymore.
911 for Jeff and whatever your
There you
local
go.
emergency number is for you. I don't really know.
That's very kind.
You'd have
of
to
you.
tell me first.
Oh, Jeff. My name is Jeff. Thank you. Okay. Ah, much better. All right, item 3. Ian writes in, I was listening to APG 455, and I took particular note about your discussion at the 34-minute and 46-second mark. Now, I don't know if that's the podcast
Very
or the
precise.
YouTube. My company is working on an $80 million pilot project in your home state of Georgia for USA Department of Transportation, ANA Airlines, and Suncor to produce biojet fuel at this pilot facility. This is the real deal. This project is to showcase the feasibility of biofuels and is scalable to a multi-billion-dollar scale. Wow. I'm not going to mention his actual company. He asked me not to. Yeah, that's exciting, Ian. Good to hear it. And wish you luck and success with this pilot project here in the state of Georgia. And kind of keeping along.
Yeah, I took a look at the website.
Yep.
It doesn't explain really to me, in my quick look, exactly how they do this, but it does sound like they've got a great way of, keeping fuel for aircraft going when the oil runs out.
Mm-hmm. Or when it gets to the point where people don't let you use it anymore.
That's true. That also.
One way or the other. Keeping along the same lines, we have some audio feedback from our good friend in Berlin, Tillman.
Hello Liz, hello Steph, hi guys. This is Private Pilot Tillman calling from Berlin, Germany with some feedback on going green. You were mentioning an article from the Daily Mail a couple episodes ago about this Oxford researcher who's breaking up carbon dioxide to make jet fuel out of it. And I actually read the article and got interested in the subject and dug up some high school chemistry, and now I'm actually quite excited. Now, this research team, of course, is not proposing to make water into wine. So there's no free lunch. But what they're actually doing is they found an energy efficient way to break up carbon dioxide into its components, which are carbon and oxygen. So they're basically doing what plants are also doing. And then what you can do is you can take the carbon and combine it with hydrogen. And if you do that, you get hydrocarbon molecules. And that is the key component of jet fuel. So what they're actually doing is laying the groundwork for synthetic jet fuel, which is a very good way to store energy from renewable sources, because for the process you can use electricity from solar or from hydroelectric or from wind. And that would mean that we could use renewable fuels to produce jet fuel that we then could even mix with existing jet fuel, and we could use it in the existing infrastructure. And that could be a very, very low threshold, elegant way to make the industry go green. And I'm actually quite excited about that. And that's all I had to say today. And I hope to talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
We're going green. We're going green. We're gonna take care of the earth.
We're going green. Oh, yeah. And now we're back.
Almost. There we are.
Hooray!
Hooray!
Oh, no problem. I can hear you now, Liz. Yeah, she was saying, I don't think you're hearing me. And I'm thinking, well, you're not on clean feed, so that's why I'm not hearing you. All right. Well, thank you for the audio feedback, Tillman. Hope you don't mind me kind of like, what's the word? Like
punctuating it?
Yeah, kind of.
Editing it?
Editing it a little bit.
Editing
it. I did it right that time, right?
You did.
Editing it.
Mm-hmm.
Editing it. It is. It's just going crazy. Yes, that's what she said. Okay. Anything else to say about the renewable jet fuel thing? And
No, I'm very glad that Tillman has actually sort of indicated that it's feasible, which is brilliant.
It is.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I did not pull out my high school or college chemistry to take a look at that, but I will leave that to folks who are interested in that process. And I'm glad that
you mean you could have done, but you were just too lazy, Steph?
Yes.
Whatever your name is.
So I just had to be looking down at Liz's little thumbnail
Well, no, it's just we've got other things going on in life right now, so I'm glad that there are people who are able to divide or give their attention to these important matters.
Excellent.
Oh, Tillman's in the chat room.
Hey,
there you go.
Yay! He said he didn't mind me sweetening it up a bit with the.
And I think we ought to mention that if you're ever looking for a hotel in Berlin, then Tillman is the man to go and visit. And if you're looking for a beer, then you can go to both the Circus Hotel, the Circus Hostel, and the Circus Brewery, all of which are fantastic.
I concur.
Why? My poor stein of beer is still a virgin. So
It has not been used?
Has not been.
Oh,
well,
no.
I've used it, but it just hasn't been filled with
It hasn't been
Tillman's
christened.
wonderful beer. It has not
Mine
been
was.
christened.
The barman looked at me very strangely when I presented it. Tillman wasn't there at the time.
He's going, yeah, what do you want me to do with this?
What?
I
I
want
think
you to fill it
I
up.
think I got a similar reaction the first time I was
But
like, well,
luckily,
look, it says,
Tillman had also given me lots of free beer vouchers, so I just said, well, will these do?
Just in case you ran into this issue.
Yeah.
That's funny. Anyway, Tillman, always good to hear from you, and I'm glad that you're with us today in the live audience. And let's continue moving on here with our feedback. Thomas writes, Nick, did the RAF actually give you the keys to the Phantom when you were 16? Who was that kid? Yeah, I don't know. He doesn't really tell us what he's referring to here, but
I'm assuming one of the pictures from
the
an earlier
logbook.
Plain Tale,
Was that 453, the latest RAF Form
Logbook
414 or whatever? Okay.
Yeah.
Must be it.
I can hear a funny noise.
Me too.
oh, sorry, I've clicked on the YouTube video in this one, and it shouldn't have played through that, and I don't know why it
Well, it did.
Yeah,
It was
that's
That's
weird.
very clever. How'd you do that?
I don't know. Sorry, it usually does not.
No, I don't think I've ever heard any.
Because I do that all the time. Because I
Audio
usually haven't
from
watched
you.
things in advance.
Is it coming out of a loudspeaker?
No. I mean.
Well, I mean, yeah, we hear you on your microphone, but perhaps maybe the YouTube audio is playing through your speakers.
Let me try
Hit it
this.
again.
Let me try. I fixed better.
Don't hear a thing.
Okay. That was definitely user error on my part. Some settings got changed, and I'm
No
not
problem.
sure how they got changed.
We're all kind of gone.
My apologies.
I just automatically assumed that it was coming from Liz because you guys can't hear it. But then when you started, what is that sound? I think, oh, they're hearing it too.
My bad.
Well, it's so
I
easy to
totally
blame
interrupted
you,
whatever
Liz.
it was that you were talking about, and I was not listening to that. So I'm sorry.
Oh, we were talking about the fact that he must be referring to the plane tail on episode 453 when Nick showed some of his photos of himself in front of the F4 Phantom, and he did look like he was about 16 years old. So,
I was 16 years old. That's why.
no, you are not. He says, but yeah, my U.S. Air Force pics have me looking just as young. Blue skies and 15 knots right down the runway. This video is where you just say go around and find an alternate blue skies and 15 knots right down the runway. And then he sent a link to a YouTube video. And
this is good.
This is going to be interesting to talk about. This is from Flug Snug, who is a kind of a prominent plane spotter video photographer. And
If that's in German, shouldn't it be Flugschnuck?
Flugschnuck. Yes, you are correct, sir. And yeah, I know Tillman. Sorry, Flugschnuck. In video clips, Liz, if you want to play the video. Okay, no problem. Yeah, should have given you some previous warning. So the airplane is coming in. This is at Birmingham, England. And kind of getting bobbling around a little bit. It's definitely flying into the wind and a crab. Although I'm looking specifically at the rudder throughout this entire sequence. And the rudder's really not moving at all. And then maybe getting close to the flaring point, it kind of flutters a little bit, like moves about an equal amount in both directions, but not big movement. And then, okay, now we see an input, which is appropriate, but then again, the rudder is neutral right now, but it's still in a crab. Nose wheel hits down, and then the airplane just starts heading that direction. And it looks like it's now only on the nose wheel and right main gear, and really the rudder is not doing a lot from what I'm seeing. It's completely off the runway, by the way, off to the left of the runway.
They decided to go off-roading.
Now I see some rudder input. Right there, right rudder, and guess what happens? The airplane moves to the right and back onto the runway. And apparently this incident is under investigation over in England. And did you guys get the same impression looking at the rudder of this thing the whole way down? I'm thinking, did the pilots know that there is a rudder on this airplane?
Well, he kicked it straight, so yes, I'm assuming he does know, because he straightened the airplane nicely. He had it well up on the upwind side of the runway, because those who aren't intimately aware of what occurs, if you come in as this pilot did crabwise, so you've got the nose offset into wind, you can track right down the middle of the runway. But the moment you straighten the airplane up to land, the crosswind will start having an effect. It'll sweep you off to the downwind side of the runway, and you can disappear off what would have been the right-hand side as we were looking at it. So you want to put it on the ground pretty soon afterwards. But you can't overdo this. And he had it right over on the upwind side of the runway, the left side of the runway. And he kicked the drift off and put the aircraft down. But he hasn't really settled it on the gear very well. It's a light aircraft. It's still being blown around a lot. And, of course, you've got this huge fin at the back. Now, once you're on the ground, that fin is going to do what you guys in the States call weather vaning, and we call weather cocking here. And it's a bit like the tail feathers on a dart or an arrow. It'll swing the aircraft into wind. And the wind's coming from the left, so the aircraft wants to swing to the left as it weathercocks and tries to straighten into the wind, which causes it to dart off the runway. Now, he doesn't seem to have made a huge effect, but he's also slowing at the same time. So the aerodynamic effect of the rudder is going to reduce. And until you get the nose wheel nice and firmly on the ground, the nose wheel steering isn't really going to help very much. And I think it's a combination of being a bit too far to the left, not being positive enough with the rudder once he realized that he had started weathercocking and the aircraft was trying to turn into wind. And basically, losing it off the side of the runway.
Yeah, let's watch it one more time, Liz. You'll have to unmute yourself if you want to make any comments. So I'm unmuted, so I can talk to everybody watching the video. There you go. Nick is unmuted now. And I had to say, when I saw this for the first time, Nick, I'm thinking, well, that makes a lot of sense. I like what he's doing there with staying on the upwind side of the runway. I mean, that's good technique.
Yep,
there.
that's what I would have done.
You don't want to do too much. And maybe he's over there on the left side a little bit too much, especially in this phase.
Yes, he's left the aircraft drift a bit too far, but
and then
now he's starting
to straighten. You just need to put it on the ground. Get it on the ground. Yeah. On the ground.
Yes.
Get it all on the ground. You're still flying. On the ground. He's not. And then all of a sudden he gets maybe a good strong gust of wind right there. And the left wheels come up.
Yeah, he doesn't really use enough. He's still got left rudder in as he's touching down. And he doesn't really reverse those rudders smartly enough.
Why does he have left rudder in at that point?
Well, because he started to drift, so he's gone back into a crab to stop the aircraft from drifting further to the right, I think, which needs left rudder. And then the airplane touches down. He should have reversed the rudder straight away. But I don't think he gets it in quick enough.
I think they need more practice with crosswind landing.
Well, to be fair, it looked a pretty fearful day. It did a horrible day.
Yeah, it looked horrible. You're right. And it's so easy for us to judge and critique this person.
Yes, let's try. I should be at the end of the runway with my scoreboards held up, 5.6.
2.
Yeah.
2. Steph's a tough marker.
Well, I mean, there was good recovery there, but they were in the grass. They were not in the runway anymore.
No, that's right.
Completely off the runway. But they got it back on. Luckily, it was smooth at that point on the non-paved surface or non.
Yeah, I don't think they did a lot of damage.
I don't know, that wind coming from the left and that left wing coming up made me quite nervous there for a second too.
Yeah, like a wheelbarrow going down the runway there.
Yeah.
And off the runway. But what we always say here, you can always right?
You can.
Well, not
you
always,
can.
but most of the time.
I wouldn't have recommended it from the position he ended up.
No. That's true.
Pointing off down the side of the runway and going to the grass is not an ideal place to start a go-round.
I think that actually, if I remember correctly in this YouTube link on the video itself, somewhere in the narrative or whatever, it talks about the fact that this was not his first attempt at landing, that did some kind of a spectacular go-around before this video that we watched here today. So... Yeah.
Yeah,
anyway.
maybe just not the airport you want to be landing at that day then.
No. Yeah,
it is notorious in strong winds, sadly. But that's why all the spotters are up there with their video cameras.
Yeah,
they know they're going to see something exciting.
I did notice that there's not a lot of like edge lighting or anything like that there, and that's probably smart on the.
It was all taken out from previous landings. Micah is asking what, right. Liz? I'm sorry. What kind of aircraft was that? I'm not absolutely sure.
Well, it's what I would have called an HS-748, but I think it's probably a later version of it.
I don't know.
ATP, yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm not sure. Anybody out there? All the ATPs that I've seen are high wing, right? Maybe they make a.
No, it's an ATP.
Mm-hmm. It is? Okay.
Is it?
Very good. So which model ATP, Steph?
I don't know.
Come on, you sounded so confident there.
What did you say, Nick? HS.
HS-748.
Yeah, it evolved into the ATP.
Or as we in the Air Force would have called it, an Andover. That was the Air Force.
Like the ATR is high wing, but the ATP is low wing.
I'm getting my letters all mixed up, which is understandable based on my condition today. I don't know if I have
we use them as light transports.
It looks pretty much even, right? I don't.
Yeah. Fast.
I don't know.
Fast.
Do I have any drool?
You're not dribbling yet. No more than usual.
Oh, and what is it? I should be able to smile, right?
There you go.
Okay, good. No
That's the best you can do.
That's the best I can do.
So
yes, that is the best
we used to call them the Andover in the Air Force, and they were a light sort of transport cargo aircraft. So the famous call was, "I'm in an Andover with a Land Rover over Dover, over."
Oh, that's cute.
Mm.
Very clever. Yeah. Nice. Show title right there. Okay. Moving on. Oh, got some audio feedback from Swansea Mark. So without further ado, let's hear from Swansea Mark.
Hello, APG crew, Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Dr. Steph, Captain Dana, Miami Rick and Liz. It's Swansea Mark here, flying cardiologist at the Acme Aviation Authority. I've got a question for you about reduced thrust or flex takeoffs. The reason for asking you this question is that somebody asked me a question the other day. They said, have you ever been frightened when you were flying? And first of all, I said no. But then thinking back, I remembered an event back in 1980 when I was on my way as a young medical student to work in a remote hospital in South Africa for a few weeks. in those days, the 747s couldn't make it from London to Johannesburg non-stop, so we'd landed in Nairobi to refuel. A few years previously, a Lufthansa 747 crashed in Nairobi on takeoff, and I guess that was at the back of my mind. Now, as a confirmed av geek for about the last 50 odd years, I've been timing takeoff rolls whenever I go flying. So typically in a narrow body, you might be looking at 30 to 40 seconds to get airborne, and maybe in a wide body you might be looking at 50 or sometimes up to a minute to actually get off the ground. Anyway, coming out of Nairobi that morning back in 1980, as the second hand on my watch went past 1 minute 10 seconds, I was getting increasingly anxious, just about to take up the brace position. And we finally lifted off at about 1 minute 20, 1 minute 25. Anyway, those were the good old days when you could go up to the flight deck for a visit. So later on in the flight, I was up talking to the crew, and I asked them about this, to me, very scary takeoff from Nairobi. And that was the first time that anyone had explained to me this idea that you might take off at less than full power. And I know it's something you've talked about on the show before, and you've explained, and I think this applies to Airbus and to Boeing, that the way you achieve this reduced takeoff thrust is by telling the aeroplane that the outside temperature is actually something different from what it actually is, typically much higher. Sometimes a temperature that's even higher than you might find on the ground in the Sahara in the middle of summer. And my question to you is, why on earth would you do that? Why did all the clever people at Airbus and Boeing, when they were making their flight management systems, not produce a computer where you just told it that you wanted 90% thrust or 93% thrust for the takeoff, rather than this weird business about pretending that the temperature's 48 degrees centigrade when it's actually 12 degrees and trying to fool the computer? It's obviously got the potential for causing problems, because we saw that with the incident in Belfast back in 2017 when a wrongly programmed outside temperature caused the aircraft to lift off very late. So anyway, look forward to hearing your thoughts on that, and whether you understand why on earth somebody would make you have to put imaginary data into a computer to get the aeroplane to perform the right way. Thanks again for all your shows, brilliant as ever. They've been keeping me company on my lockdown runs on the beach in sunny Swansea. You take care, and I hope to meet you all at an APG meetup before too long. All the best. Swansea Mark, over and out.
Thank you, Swansea Mark. You know what? I have to admit that I have wondered the same thing regarding why not just make it 80% or 90% or 93% or whatever. But I think now, if Rick were here with us today, he'd probably have all the scientific and engineering data when it comes to why we do it the way we do. But I'm going to take a stab in the dark here. I think it might have something to do with the fact that when an airplane's certified, they have all this data that they've come up with regarding performance from the engine at certain temperatures, and they have this huge amount of data regarding all that, and so it's just easier for them to say, let's just pretend that the outside air temperature is 45 degrees Celsius, and then the engine will be tricked into using a lower power setting, but still retain all the engineering and performance data that we paid the manufacturer to come up with. So we have all that data already. So I don't know. Am I even close to the truth there, Nick? Do you know what the...
I don't know, Jeff. I think the origins, according to my research, go back to Laker Airways, an airline that those of us in the UK are very familiar with, if you're old enough. Freddie Lake started up a low-cost transatlantic airline. And he had an airline with quite a few aircraft, and according to his memoir, he was the guy that dreamt up the idea of reducing engine wear and tear by introducing reduced thrust takeoffs. So he did it on the BAC 111 initially, and reduced the thrust on those. He did it in obviously consultation with Rolls-Royce, since Rolls-Royce built the Spey engine that the BAC 111 used. Funnily enough, the same engine that was in my Phantom. And Rolls-Royce are terribly impressed that they had managed to get such fantastic results that when they bought the Laker aircraft in for engine servicing, the Rolls-Royce guys were saying these engines are in fantastic condition. And they started to think about doing it elsewhere or promoting this technique. Of course, in the early days, they wouldn't have had any way to do it except to, exactly as you say, to trick the engine into reducing its thrust. Either that or manually set a thrust limit, which has obvious limitations. So I think that when they started thinking of the idea, they thought of a parameter that they could change that would get the desired stable amount of thrust they want out of the engine. And the easiest one the engineers could come up with was reducing the air temperature indication that the FedEx worked with. And I think really having set that in and got it authorized and got it cleared by all the authorities and the engine manufacturers, they said, well, why do we change it? Why do we now want to move things on when we've got a perfectly understood and stable way of setting it? It doesn't really matter which system of reducing engine thrust you use. If you change the engine thrust, any system has the potential of the pilot putting in the wrong numbers. So yes, there have been some errors made calculating what temperature to set. But if you said, well, let's reduce some other parameter, you're still going to have to do a calculation. There's still just as much likelihood that someone's going to make an error and you can end up with too much thrust being reduced. I personally think in future it might be automatically done through the aircraft computers such that you just enter the aircraft weight correctly, hopefully, and everything is taken care of for you. But we haven't quite got there yet. But that's my guess at this. I don't know for sure.
Or how about a system where the airplane weighs itself and it knows exactly what its weight is?
Can't the 747 do that?
I think they made a model of it or had as an option on the TriStar, the L1011.
That weight transducers in the undercarriage.
Yeah, and I think I have this right, and I think the official reasoning for taking it off the airplane was that it was just wasn't worth. I guess it added some extra weight, and wasn't worth the extra weight, the performance penalty, or whatever else. But I think probably really what happened is they started realizing that the airplanes were a lot heavier than.
Yes,
than
I think. I think that's one of the main reasons we don't really want to know how much we weigh. Thank you, because then we'll have to take all this cargo off.
Exactly.
So I'm just gonna say there's a whole lot that I don't understand about this because I don't fly these types of aircraft with these types of engines, and it's not something I deal with. But and this is just thinking back to stuff that Rick has talked about in the past. I'm sure he will be happy to clear all of this up for us. But there's a difference between there's different ways to basically set reduced power or simulated reduced power for takeoffs. One is derating, and then the other one is assumed temperature. And I don't know if you guys can talk about the difference between the two of them. Basically, one is, you tell the aircraft that the outside temperature is much higher, so it's going to use a lower power setting. The other one is that you convince the engine that it has less power to begin with, basically, correct? Or I might be explaining that
I'm not
incorrectly.
going
but
there. I'm waiting for
yeah,
Rick.
I think Rick will clear that up
Rick?
for us. But
Where are you?
yeah, there you go. So iHaulbox is getting into some of this, but
No.
basically you get there's different limitations based on which method you use. So that might have something to do with why you would want to use
For
one
a
of those
number of
methods over
years
the other.
now, work has been proceeding in order to bring perfection to the crudely conceived idea. Such an instrument is the turboencabulator. Now, basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative motion of conductors and fluxes.
There we go. That's the official
like
explanation for that. I have no idea. I think there
So
is.
let's keep that one in the feedback because we definitely did not answer Swansea Mark. Well,
Oh, but that means that Rick is going to have to answer.
Nick had a very nice historical
I
explanation.
liked Nick's answer. I thought it was
Well,
very thorough.
that's why it was initially started that way. And I think having established it, you know what the airline industry is like. If you find something that works, people are loath to change it because that means you have to recertify a new procedure and get it cleared by everyone. It's expensive. So having established one way of doing it, everyone's just carried on doing it that way.
I think there are airplanes, and maybe the 777 is one of them, and probably more. Maybe the 340 did this as well, Nick, where you can kind of do a combination of the assumed temperature and derate. Have like a derate.
Yeah,
and
we
assumed
could
temperature.
derate in the 340, and we could flex the takeoff as well.
Mhm.
We didn't do the two combined, but until later on, when I started flying the 330, I'm pretty sure we derated at some point, but that derate never came into effect during the takeoff roll. We would flex for the takeoff roll, and at an altitude of a couple of 1,000 feet or whatever, after takeoff, derate would come into effect. And you could change the derate as well as you went up the climb. If you found that the aircraft was climbing poorly, you could take the derate out and then you put it back in again. The idea is to basically not use full power because that eats engine life. If you can use a lower power setting, you might take longer to get to height or whatever, but as far as the engine is concerned, that is saving an enormous amount of cost for maintenance and for engine life. So at any time, if you can reduce the amount of thrust you're using, you're going to make it safer. And of course, the argument for me, I always used, when I was in the military, used full power for everything. We never even dreamt of using less than full power for a takeoff. It was explained to me that the vast majority of engine failures occur when you apply full power. If you can do a takeoff with less than full power, then you're less likely to suffer an engine failure during the takeoff roll, as well as preserving engine life.
Well, I'm old school. I think we should always use full power and top up the gas tanks.
Yes,
Always.
absolutely.
Full tanks.
Full gas, full power.
And if that
full
means
pay.
not being able to full pay, of course. If that means not being able to haul passengers or cargo, and you have to, do maintenance on the engines twice as much, well, so be it.
Yeah, I know. I think that's
Very
wonderful.
efficient.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
And your union will back you to the hilt.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're probably making note of this time mark right now to present to the company for my dismissal. I hope, yes. Liz says you hope. How do I get fired but still receive full pay for the next 3 years? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, good luck if you can work that out. Yeah, your airline's basically going to run out of pilots very quickly if you can work that out.
Liz, is it time for the best part of the show yet? Oh, thank goodness. It is
Save
now
us,
time.
Liz. And
Best part of the show, which of course means it's time for this week's installment of the Old Pilot's Plain Tales.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. The Deutschendorfs. We recently mourned the loss of the very first pilot to achieve supersonic flight, General Chuck Yeager, who took the Bell X-1 into the then unknown region beyond the sound barrier. Whilst his feat of skill and bravery was a remarkable milestone, it was very soon left behind as the aerospace industry was forging ahead at a quite incredible pace. The end of the Second World War was only 2 years old when the victorious Allies began to vie with each other for dominance on the world stage. On one side was the Soviet Union with their allies in the Eastern Bloc, and on the other was the United States with its friends within the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. This Cold War, named so as the superpowers only fought in proxy wars, supporting opposing sides in regional conflicts like the Korean and Vietnamese wars, started in 1947 and brought about an arms race like no other. Enormous efforts were being made on both sides to take advantage of the threat inherent in the new generation of weapons, the thermonuclear bomb. Vastly more powerful than earlier pure fission weapons that were used to destroy Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the number and power of this second-generation version available to the antagonists were enough to guarantee destruction on a global scale. This led to the adoption of the MAD doctrine, mutually assured destruction, a strategy of deterrence that, in the event of nuclear war, would assure the complete annihilation of both the aggressor and the defender by first and second strikes. In order to present a credible threat, both sides were forced into an arms race so that neither could launch an attack and then survive the retaliation. The first intercontinental ballistic missile wouldn't become operational in the United States until the Atlas missile came into service at the end of 1959, a few months behind the Soviet R-7 version. Up until that point, both countries depended entirely on airborne delivery of nuclear weapons from a variety of aircraft, which were becoming ever more capable. In 1956, the latest and most impressive by far was the Convair B-58 Hustler. Convair had beaten off considerable competition to have its bid for GBO-2, the Generalized Bomber Study issued by the Air Research and Development Command at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, accepted. Boeing, Curtiss, Douglas, Martin, and North American Aviation had all made submissions that were considered straightforward, unambitious, and expensive. Convair, on the other hand, had proposed a radical four-engined, delta-winged, supersonic aircraft capable of stratospheric flight. It was to be the United States Air Force's first true supersonic bomber, and only 2 years after man had broken the sound barrier. There was considerable skepticism in command that the propulsion systems and material science required for this ambitious aircraft weren't advanced enough, but Convair was given the go-ahead, and in 1952 they were chosen to meet the new SAB-51 supersonic aircraft bomber standards. The aircraft was designated the B-58, and initially the task was to build 2 prototypes, 11 pre-production aircraft and 31 mission pods, including a free-fall bomb pod, a rocket-propelled controllable bomb pod, a reconnaissance and an electronic reconnaissance pod. The design had altered slightly from the initial proposal, which had been a 3-engined version, as the B-58 now had 4 pylon-mounted afterburning GE J-79s, which hung beneath the 60-degree swept large delta wing. To protect vital components against the heat generated at high speed, as well as the crew compartment, the wheel wells and electronics bay were pressurized and air-conditioned. The design was also the first to make extensive use of aluminium honeycomb panels, which bonded outer and inner skins of aluminium and stainless steel to a honeycomb of metal or fiberglass. In addition, other features made the aircraft groundbreaking, such as the advanced wing design that was extremely thin to aid supersonic flight, and the structure was very light, making up only 14% of the aircraft's gross weight. The engine inlets were also revolutionary, featuring moving conical spikes which travelled forwards at high speeds, minimizing the annular gap and increasing the engine efficiency. With a view to surviving high-level and high supersonic ejections, the 3 crew members were also given a novel escape system which could enclose the occupant in a protective clamshell, allowing them to survive ejection. The system would enclose the pilot along with his control column and a separate oxygen system that would allow him to stay in control and protected from the elements should the aircraft be damaged. He would also be ready for an immediate ejection. This system was tested using live animals, the story of which is in my earlier tale, Who Killed Yogi Bear? The crew sat in individual cockpits, laid out in tandem, and they were very advanced for their time. The controls were electronic and the dashboards wrapped around the occupant, with audio warnings piped into their helmets. They even had the very first example of voice warnings. Known by F-18 pilots around the world as Bitching Betty, the Hustler crews had the more glamorous voice of actress and singer Joan Elms, who they dubbed Sexy Sally. She recorded 20 voice clips that were played from tapes on board the Hustler's warning system, telling them of failures, engine ice and weapons release, etc. The weapon systems were also very advanced. The navigation equipment was based around a Sperry inertial reference system which was tied in to an automatic Astro star tracker and a Doppler radar for ground speed and wind data. A search radar provided bomb release data, and the combined arrangement was considered to be 10 times more accurate than anything that had gone before. For defense, the Hustler had a remotely controlled, automated, radar-laid 20mm rotary cannon mounted in the tail and fired by the defensive systems operator. Offensively, the Navigator and Bombardier had a single nuclear weapon held in a large, streamlined pod slung on the belly, which also doubled as an external fuel tank. In later versions, the fuel section could be jettisoned independently of the weapon. The Hustler was not an easy aircraft to fly. Its highly swept wings were designed to accommodate a top speed of Mach 2, but this had the drawback of requiring a much higher angle of attack than normal at lower speeds. For takeoff, the pilot needed to accelerate to over 230 miles an hour at combat weights, and then rotate the aircraft to 14 degrees of pitch just to get airborne. Landing speeds were equally high, and specially designed landing gear with tires at very high pressure and capable of extremely high rotation speeds were required. An angle of attack beyond 17 degrees would result in a pitch-up, which could easily develop into a spin, and should this happen below 15,000 feet, then recovery was very unlikely. Its stall characteristics were also dangerous, as in a stall it remained nose high, and unless large amounts of power were applied, a rapid rate of descent ensued. Fuel stacking was also a problem, where movement of fuel within the tanks would occur during acceleration or deceleration that could cause a sudden change in the aircraft's center of gravity, causing an abrupt pitch-up or roll and lead to loss of control. Early in the aircraft's life, 26 airframes would be lost to accidents. Despite its drawbacks, the Hustler was a formidable bomber, and it set numerous world records. It rattled windows around America, in a country that was a lot more forgiving in those days, as it set coast-to-coast records. And it flew the longest supersonic flight in history when Major Sidney Kubetch flew from Tokyo to London in 8 hours, 35 minutes and 20.4 seconds. His aircraft, named Greased Lightning, needed to refuel in flight 5 times, but the record he set that day still stands. On a single day in early 1961, this remarkable aircraft set 6 international speed and payload records on a single flight, breaking 5 records previously held by the Soviet Union. On this day, one crew flew their B-58 over a 2,000-kilometer course, about 1,200 miles, carrying a 2-ton payload at the world record speed of over 1,060 miles per hour, roughly twice the speed of the previous record holder, the Soviet Tu-104 Camel. The same crew went on to fly their aircraft, named Untouchable, to beat records for a 1-ton payload and for a clean aircraft as well. For this feat, the pilot, Major Henry John Deutschendorf, Sr., along with his bombardier and defense systems operator, would be awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. Before I talk more about Major Deutschendorf, I want to emphasize what a step up in technology the Hustler represented. From Chuck Yeager's initial achievement in 1947, by 1949 Convair had submitted its initial bid, which would be accepted in 1952 and achieve its first flight in 1956. So much had to be learned in that time. The aerodynamics of supersonic flight, the construction materials that would be required, the engines that could power it were only part of the technological challenges that would be faced. It was truly a remarkable effort. The pilots that were chosen to fly this tricky Mach 2 70,000-foot capable aircraft that could climb at over 45,000 feet a minute were highly skilled, and Lieutenant Colonel Henry John, Dutch to his friends, Deutschendorf was one of them. Henry John had completed 3 years of high school and was working as an assistant janitor when the Second World War was looming, and he made a very difficult decision for someone with a religious upbringing of a Mennonite. He joined the army. Not only was his decision a major break with the Mennonite tradition, but because he was an intelligent, fit, and strong young man, his help on the family farm would be missed. His enlistment papers stated that he was a farmhand, but the military provided Dutch, who had excellent eyesight, intelligence, and outstanding reflexes, the opportunity to learn to fly. He would spend most of the war as a flight instructor on B-17s and B-29s, but his active service earned him campaign medals for Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, and he was awarded the Air Medal for individual heroism, an outstanding achievement. He served in Korea before he was given the opportunity to fly the remarkable B-58. After 26 years of service, he would retire, but then would sadly be taken from his family by a massive heart attack at only 61 years of age. During its service, the Hustler would win the Blériot, Thompson, Mackay, Bendix, and Harmon trophies, but the aircraft that he flew to world record fame would also have a short and somewhat checkered life. For the 1961 Paris Air Show, a Hustler made the first supersonic transatlantic crossing between New York and Paris in a mere 3 hours and 14 minutes at a speed of 1,753 miles per hour. Sadly, on the return home flight, the aircraft named Firefly would crash a mere 5 miles into their journey, killing all 3 crew members. Only 4 years later, again at the Paris Air Show, another Hustler would crash when the aircraft landed short of the runway, striking the instrument approach aerials and bursting into flame, killing all on board. They had arrived late for the start of the show, with a lot of fuel remaining. As the flying display was about to begin, they were offered the option of diverting or making an immediate overweight landing. The commander chose the latter, with tragic consequences. Such misfortune was also reflected in the life of the B-58 pilot I chose to title this story. Not only did Dutch Deutschendorf pass away at an early age, but his family would suffer other tragedies. His son, Henry John Deutschendorf Jr., which many of you will know as the American songwriter, record producer, actor, activist, humanitarian, and wonderful country singer John Denver, would also have his life cut short. John Denver's music has long been a favorite of mine, and his songs, in particular, Leaving on a Jet Plane and Back Home Again, have provided a soundtrack to my life. Like his father, John would also become a pilot and would work closely with NASA, becoming dedicated to America's work in space. He was killed flying one of Burt Rutan's experimental Long Easy light aircraft when his newly acquired machine's engine failed due to fuel starvation. The NTSB findings indicated that in his efforts to reach the fuel selector valve to resupply the engine, he had to twist hard in his seat, and in doing so he inadvertently pressed the rudder pedals, yawing the aircraft into a spin. He was too low to recover. You may not have realized it, but along with the wonderful music of John Denver, there were more artistic Deutschendorfs, and tragically more sorrow would follow. Two of John Denver's nephews, William and Henry John Deutschendorf II, known as Will and Hank, performed in Ghostbusters 2 when they took turns playing the part of baby Oscar. They would go on to form the West Coast Martial Arts Academy, but Hank would suffer from a combination of bipolar and schizophrenic disorders that caused him severe depression. He would grow up as a young man who was upbeat, healthy, witty, kind, outgoing, and was always ready to stand up for people. Sadly, the medication he took curbed the delusions but didn't stop the voices, and the side effects took a toll. He would eventually take his own life. The Hustler would serve until early 1970, when its role was taken over by the new FB-111A. Only 116 would be made, and over 22% of those airframes would be lost to accidents. It was an expensive aircraft to both build and operate. The B-58 program cost over $21 billion in today's money, and the Hustler was 3 times as expensive to operate as the B-52 Stratofortress. However, in the annals of the steely-eyed rocket men that flew it, the Hustler would stand head and shoulders above others as one of the most remarkable aircraft the United States would ever build.
Another great plane tale from the old pilot.
Well, and thanks, Jeff. I have to thank Micah, really, because it was his idea, and he knew of the relationship between the Deutschendorfs with John Denver, because his amazing musical knowledge, and the Hustler. I just love that you can bring a story like that together and tell a bit about an aeroplane and then link it to someone who was so famous and someone who I grew up listening to his music. I dated to his music. My wife introduced me to it. It became a very big part of my life. And I was so sad when he killed himself. It was just an absolute tragedy.
Sunshine on my shoulder.
Absolutely.
Or something like that. Right?
Yeah, and his song is that? I'm not sure. But he just so many classics.
I think that's a John Denver song, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I was listening to him today while I was doing the chapters version of the...
Well, when we were playing this Plaintail, I mentioned to Nick, I said, I think I understand why you chose this particular style of music for the Plaintail here, because it reminded me a lot of that John Denver style.
Yeah.
Very apropos.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, you have to admire a family like that, because not only do they produce a pilot of amazing ability, you produced singers and actors, but I think I can look back on the music that John Denver produced and say it was a very important influence in my life.
So was this, did you say that the airplane was created in 1958?
Well, the initial acceptance of their design to fulfill, yes, that began then. So
many great things created.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 47 they broke the sound barrier. 2 years later, their design for this aircraft was accepted, but it didn't actually fly till like the mid 50s, 56, 57. And most of the world records that they attempted, they didn't do it until the early 60s, because like a lot of aircraft, they didn't want to reveal the aircraft's true performance capability.
Yeah. Early 60s, I mean, it was highly overrated. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
58 was an amazing year.
Good year? Okay, not as good as 54, but there you go.
Was it a good year? I think they were both good years.
58 was the best that I can think of.
I mean, 58, 54, 82.
51? Nah.
I don't know.
Is that your year, Liz? 51? Yeah, she's giving me a thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah, but it was all the best things were made around there, we know. And if you think about it, this really was, for me, it was the equivalent in that era for those engineers of the space race, of building that amazing, technological wonder that put men on the moon. This was the start of it. Those engineers, these engineers, were absolutely at the forefront of the technological advance that America was making at the time. Absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Really. Well, thank you, Micah, for suggesting this Plaintail topic, and also thank you for my birthday card. I am remiss in not thanking you for that earlier, but in the mail quarantining system in my current residence, things are delayed a bit. So I just got that a few days ago. So thank you, Micah. I appreciate it. You're a very thoughtful person. Okay. I think we should continue with some more feedback. What do you think?
Yeah, it's just getting bored.
No, I'm sorry. There's so much going on right now. Sorry.
I'm probably going to use that whole work excuse thing.
Yeah, work,
something to do with work.
Or it's work related, vague work related things.
Like every time I see her in person, she just starts like drifting off, and I said, "Work."
I feel like that recently.
Thinking about work.
No, I'm looking forward to not being so mired in work stuff.
Well, maybe this feedback will take your mind away from work.
Let's do it.
Steph. Richard writes in. He says, "G'day, APG crew. It's Rich from Singapore. I just want to say thanks for my Acme T-shirt. Feeling part of the community, I wore it 3 days in a row until my wife told me to change it or she would divorce me. I'm now living in a bachelor apartment in town." Oh, that's sad to hear. Sorry, Richard. Oh, wait, he says joking. Haha.
That's a nice color he chose. That's
I think, Liz, I think I have an overlay of Mr. Richard and said wife who is threatening divorcing him, and so she's trying to find it right now. and we're gonna put it on the screen. There it is. Look at him. Is that a good-looking guy wearing that
great-looking guy?
beautiful
And look at that
t-shirt?
fantastic shirt.
I know.
Yep.
Great
Absolutely.
choice of colors too. That nice green color.
He's even got an aviation-related mask by the looks of it.
The wings
Yeah.
going on there.
And look at that very, very understanding and patient wife.
It seems that she has not divorced him yet, so that's good.
Not yet.
We're glad.
No.
Very
So,
glad.
No.
You know,
We're
we're sending our
flamingos.
wishes, prayers. Yeah. So
that's very good. I'm trying to work out what is on your hat, old chap. It says, I'm trying to look
I think
at
it
it.
says, is it RF? I think, or I can't tell.
Could be
for sure.
RF, yes.
RF or BF or 3F. I don't know.
And is
Richard,
that supposed to be an A340 behind you?
Roger Federer? Is that what you said, Liz?
Roger Federer.
Oh, could
tennis
be.
player hat. Oh,
Yeah, could be. Is that
yeah.
his, like how he signs his initials?
That's a brand thing, Liz says.
He's a very
She
fancy
knows all
Swiss
about the
bloke.
tennis stuff.
She does.
Jilly would know that, she said.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, Jilly knows so much more.
Nick has not been paying attention.
She's already gone to bed.
She's a smart woman.
Yeah.
So Rich, or Richard, no, he goes by Rich. Thank you so much. We are enriched by having you as part of our APG community.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks for sending in those photos. Hey, if you're out there listening and you have an APG or an Acme shirt, send a picture of you wearing it before you get divorced.
That would.
Yeah, but you have to live somewhere nice, like Singapore.
Well, so there's this thing where, like in the Parachutist magazine, people take a copy of the magazine with them and on their travels and fun places, and just show where they're reading things around the world. This could be like a fun little segment. Where are you wearing your APG shirt in the world?
Yeah, Lucas Diamond, Liz is mentioning that Lucas Diamond, the Flying Kiwi, sent in a photo of him wearing, I think it was a sweatshirt in that case, or a hoodie or something like that he had ordered. And so, yeah, not the first time that we've had APG community members sending in pictures of them wearing their merch. And but it'd be kind of fun if you are out there and you have ordered one in the past, take a selfie and send it in.
Absolutely.
Be a lot of fun. We'll put it on the show.
Especially since we're so
wonderful
limited in our travel abilities right now, it'll be interesting.
Right.
To,
Yeah.
if you interesting places or just mundane places, we want to know where you are.
Oh wait, Steph wants you to make sure.
I live in a
so we're not
mundane
gonna
place. I'm just making that very clear.
We're not going to accept any. We're not going to accept any photos unless they're of somebody skydiving wearing an Acme Air.
I might have to figure out how to make that happen. You're gonna have to wait a few weeks, but I can figure that out.
Okay. Well, we're counting on it.
Okay.
Thanks, Richard, for sending that in. Richard has sent us in feedback in the past, and but this is our favorite because it's wearing our shirt. Okay. Texas Charlie sends us this. Howdy, guys and gals. Sorry that lately I haven't regaled you with my weekly emails. We are actually celebrating it, Texas Charlie. No, I'm just kidding. We had a touch of COVID dance through my immediate family and my fellow management staff. At work, those who could have been pulling double duty. Wait a minute. I think I screwed that up somehow. That looks like those who could have been pulling double duty.
Hold on. No, it's there's punctuation where there's not supposed to. Let's see. Howdy, guys and gals. Sorry that lately I haven't regaled you. It's been emails we had to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Howdy, guys and gals. Sorry that lately I haven't regaled you with my weekly emails. We had a touch of COVID dance through my immediate family and my fellow management staff. At work, those who could have been pulling double duty. Everyone's doing fine and waiting for our sense of smell and taste to return. But on to what's important, flying and remembering what it was like before COVID. As a child of expat parents living in Venezuela, I cut my aviation teeth in the 1960s as a passenger of an Avenza DC-3. With those as my formative years in aviation, it's my opinion that anyone who has only experienced flying in a pressurized metal tube cruising at 35,000 feet has no real understanding of what flying is really all about. The attached video was taken from a DC-3 Survivenza, a daughter airline of Avenza, flying over the Gran Sabana region of Venezuela. The waterfall seen in the second half of the video is Angel Falls, the world's highest uninterrupted waterfall. I took a similar flight in 72 or 73 on a flight to Canaima, a jungle resort located in Canaima National Park and located on a lagoon surrounded by magnificent waterfalls. And I got to tell you, those Avenza pilots liked flying low and tight. Our view of the falls was much, much closer. So here's a toast to getting back to normal, and when we can get away with it, flying low and tight. After all, as Manfred Mann once sang, but mama, that's where the fun is. That's a great, pardon me? Yeah, video. Let's go ahead and play the video. Okay, so I've unmuted, and we're watching the video of this Cervavenza DC-3 flight, and in the background, we see the amazing waterfall from Angel
It
Falls.
looks like my washing machine.
Does it? Oh, you should probably
You
have
could
that
probably
checked.
fix that. I don't think the water is supposed to be cascading down the outside of your washing machine like that.
Well, it does it every time we use it.
Do you hear this music playing while it's happening?
Well,
Your washing machine plays music also?
Yeah, it
It's
does
like
actually.
One of those
Usually at
fancy
the end
videos
of the cycle.
From like Japan where, you can play music while you're...
So we're seeing video of this, and we'll have this link in the show notes. Amazing footage of Angel Falls. It almost makes me dizzy looking at it. It's amazing. I hope that someday, before I pass on to the next one.
Is there a Russian nuclear submarine somewhere in those falls?
Oh,
It kind of did sound very like...
Well, it's Venezuela. It's kind of a communist country, right? So I'm.
Well, I suddenly was thinking Red October, and I thought, that's where they put it.
Yeah. Interesting choice of music, I agree.
I like it, though. It was very good. Stunning. Yeah. Absolutely stunning, to be truthful. It looked fabulous.
You know that Angel Falls has an aviation connection? Did you know that? I did not know this.
Okay.
I did a little bit of research. And let's see. This guy named Jimmy Angel. And guess what? They named Angel Falls after a pilot, an American aviator, Jimmy Angel. They were not known to the outside world until American aviator Jimmy Angel, following directions given by Cordona, another explorer, flew over them on 16 November 1933 on a flight while he was searching for a valuable ore bed, O-R-E bed. Returning on 9 October 1937, Angel tried to land his flamingo monoplane.
Sorry, I'm very glad you spelt that, because I was just thinking, an ore bed?
Valuable ore bed.
Or.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's always those, it's always those treasure seekers that find these interesting things. They never seem to find the treasure they're searching for, but,
I was thinking of a completely different ore. I'm sorry.
Okay. Angel tried to land his flamingo airplane El Rio Caroni atop Ayan Tapui, but the plane was damaged when the wheels sank into the marshy ground. Angel and his three companions, including his wife, Marie, by the way, she divorced him very shortly.
Shortly thereafter. She's like, I had enough of this.
Yes,
enough of these ore beds.
He was probably also wearing an APG t-shirt. I mean, I know it was 1937, but
and he really did get a divorce. Were forced to descend the Tapui on foot. It took them 11 days to make their way back to civilization by the gradually sloping backside, but news of their
Thank you for laughing at that, because I was
mountain backside. But news of their adventure spread, and the waterfall was named Angel Falls in his honor. The name of the waterfall, Salto de Angel, was first. Say it again.
Salto del Ángel.
Oh, okay.
Angel. Yeah, put the
yes, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. Was first published on a Venezuelan government map in December 1939. And I'm including a picture here. I'm going to go ahead and share it with everybody in the chat room, because they just deserve to see this, I think. And if you're listening to the audio only, look in the show notes. You'll see the picture of this monoplane, Johnny Angels.
They're big
monoplane.
Big chocks they've got there.
I was going to say, I understand now why it kind of got stuck in the marshy.
It's got square wheels.
Yeah, because the cement blocks that are attached to the wheels just do not look very practical to me.
No, they don't. That must be a devil getting airborne.
Looks a lot like a Ford Tri-motor,
Ford Tri,
but
yeah,
it only
I was
has
gonna
one
say.
motor.
A Ford
a Ford Uni motor.
Solo. Ford Uni motor. But like just the fuselage and it's very
it's the
reminiscent.
kind of corrugated metal effect that they've used. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad that I did a little bit more research here regarding Angel Falls, because actually I was trying to figure out exactly how far the water falls down. It's like 3,000 some odd feet. It's amazing. And then I kind of stumbled upon the fact that really the falls were named for an American aviator. Yeah, interesting.
Very impressive.
Yeah. So thank you for pointing us to that Facebook video, Texas Charlie. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. You can watch the entire thing and enjoy that music again.
And be inspired to go watch Red October.
Yeah, exactly. Which has nothing to do with Angel Falls. Trust me. I don't want to spoil it.
It's all about a Scottish-Russian submarine commander.
Yes.
That's right.
Scottish-Russian. Very
Yes.
common. What? I don't remember the submarine commander wearing a kilt, but I'll have to go back.
Well, they never go below his waist, but
they never did.
I think he was,
yeah. For good reason. All right. Texas Charlie also sent us another piece of feedback regarding some dude named Craig Hosking, and he has a very unusual airplane that looks like a biplane, sort of. It's got landing gear on the bottom where it belongs and also on the top, and does some kind of an air show thing where he lands upside down.
Is it a pit special? A
Looks
very
like a pit
special pit special.
A very
It's
special.
an extra special pits.
Yes.
And you watch this video and you go, this guy must be crazy, because, I mean, he is like upside down for a very long time, including like taxiing around on the ground before he takes off.
I feel like that'd be quite
From experience, prolonged negative G is really painful. And it's just uncomfortable. Your eyes start to pop blood vessels and it's just awful. So how the hell this guy does an entire air show, like mainly upside down, I think is nuts.
Well, he has probably suffered brain damage, as I have, and I think that might be why, because I used to do the same darn thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes, I used to, when I was an instructor, our students always had to put together an aerobatic sequence as one of their tasks when they were learning aerobatics and that kind of stuff. And I used to cringe because they used to love doing outside turns. And so they'd do a whole 360 at like minus 2.5 G, minus 3 G. And by the end of that, I was sitting in the back going, I've had enough of this. And I was a young man then.
Thankfully, I think most of the airplanes that I flew in the Air Force, you couldn't
Didn't
sustain
have that capability.
inverted flight. Yeah, it's like, nope, not for me.
Sadly, the Hawk was very capable.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, so am I.
Okay, number nine. Robert and Dave sent us links to this news article. Let's see. Robert says, I'm not exactly sure what to think of this news item. Laugh out loud. And then Dave says, I saw this lighthearted story on the news and its similarity to the Tom Hanks film, The Terminal. Having never been to O'Hare, how nice is it to want to live there? Not that nice.
Oh, Robert.
Yeah, it got me thinking about what airport would you guys choose to do this if you had to, and why?
Oh, actually, that was from Dave, that question. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry. They both
from Dave. So before we answer that, Dave, hold on to that thought. Let's tell you about what it is they're talking about. A California man who police said claimed to be too afraid to fly due to COVID-19, which kind of begs the question, how did he get to Chicago O'Hare? Hid out for 3 months in a secured area of O'Hare International Airport until his weekend arrest, prosecutors said on Sunday. Aditya Singh, 36, is charged with felony criminal trespass to a restricted area of an airport and misdemeanor theft. In bond court Sunday, prosecutors said Singh arrived at O'Hare on a flight from Los Angeles, so obviously he wasn't too afraid to take that flight, on October 19, and allegedly has lived in the airport's security zone ever since, without detection. Cook County Judge Susana Ortiz reacted incredulously Sunday after a prosecutor detailed the allegations. This is her quote. So, if I understand you correctly, you're telling me that an unauthorized non-employee individual was allegedly living within a secure part of the O'Hare Airport terminal from October 19th, 2020 to January 16th, 2021, and was not detected. I want to understand you correctly. And the answer to that was yes. Early Saturday afternoon, 2 United Airlines employees approached him and asked to see his identification. Assistant State's Attorney Kathleen Haggerty said Singh lowered his face mask and showed them an airport ID badge that he was wearing around his neck. The badge actually belonged to an operations manager who had reported it missing October 26th, a long time ago. The employees called 911. Police took Singh into custody about 11:10 a.m. Saturday in Terminal 2 near Gate F12. I think the Acme gates are not too far from there.
They're not.
I may have seen him in my transiting through O'Hare. Anyway, he reportedly found the badge and was scared to go home due to COVID. Well, it was California, so I can sort of understand him being fearful to go back to California. She told the judge the other passengers were giving him food. So he was doing the Tom Hanks thing in the terminal at O'Hare. Interesting.
Yeah, nuts.
What airport would you choose if you were going to live there for 3 months? I don't think I'd choose any, actually. But
I can't think of a great one. I mean, definitely one with a lot of food options. So I'd have to be well provisioned from a financial standpoint because I need food. I don't think I could just live off of what other people would give me unless it was dire emergency and I couldn't leave for reasons out of my control or unrest or something along those lines. So I'm actually thinking someplace like Dubai or there's lots of good shopping and food in there.
Yeah, but you have to also think about the local political system and
yeah, but if I'm just in the airport,
system.
Well, okay. That's true. I mean, you don't want to be caught.
Yeah,
so I'd also suggest
that's what
not
I mean.
getting
If you get caught, then you have to think about.
Well, if that's the case, then I want to probably be in like Salt Lake City or something. They're pretty nice.
Salt Lake City, that'd be a good choice. Beautiful panoramic views.
Nice views of the mountains. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brand new airport, new terminal just opened. I haven't been in there, so I don't really know what the provisions are like, but.
Not too far to the Red Iguana restaurant.
Not far
although you'd have to go outside of the airport to do that. So that probably wouldn't be a good idea.
But there's a Cafe Rio inside, so that's okay. I would survive.
Oh, okay. I like it. Let's do Salt Lake City for the
and a High West distillery. So.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to look sad enough for people to buy you whiskey food
and tacos. Okay.
And tacos.
Yeah, it'd have to look pretty sad for people to start buying your whiskey, wouldn't you?
I was actually trying to think if there's an airport that I can think of that has like good sleeping accommodations, just like in the terminal itself, where you wouldn't have to go into a lounge or pay for like one of those sleeping pods that's like $100.
Are we trying to just live in an airport for free? Or are we just living in an airport? Because if you've got money, there are plenty of airports that are very nice to live in.
Yeah, I think we're talking about like you have no money.
A scrounging in an airport. Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Then I'd want to be someplace where people who have lots of money are transiting through.
Yes.
Oh, I suppose there's enough of those, and being a pickpocket at an airport is probably, target-rich environment.
I think the people of Salt Lake City are nice people, so
They
might
are. It's not a
take
bad
care of you.
option.
Yeah.
Well, I'd go for Changi, personally. I haven't
Okay.
actually been there, but apparently it features some stunning architecture. It's got 3,000 trees, 300 shops and restaurants. It's got the first butterfly garden in an airport in the world. It's got an entertainment complex, 24-hour movie theaters. Might be good to sleep in.
Changi is Singapore?
Yeah.
If they catch you there, they're not going to be they're not.
Well,
shy
they're pretty good. They're not
about-
going to. They're going to chop your hands off. They're
but
nice
they'll
people in
take you with, like
Singapore.
they'll do the
But they've
switch
got a
thing
they've
on
got
you,
a
I
rooftop
think.
swimming pool and hot tub.
I don't know. I think I'd rather go with Liz's choice, which would be Vancouver.
Yeah, but I was going
in British
to.
Columbia.
It was going to be another choice. Vancouver, which
Canadians,
is beautiful.
Canadians are nice people.
They're very
and
nice
not going
to you.
to punish you at all. Because
Well, not
Probably
much
just politely
anyway.
ask you to never come back. But
They'll
that'd
probably
be-
talk you to death.
Right. They'll probably think, well, it had something to do with your poor upbringing or something.
It could be, yeah. Or Perth in Western Australia. That's a pretty beautiful airport.
Oh, okay. There's another option. Well, hey, folks, if you're listening to the show and you're looking for a place to hang out for 3 months with
Place
no
to
money,
live.
there you go.
Where?
We got it.
Yeah.
No, that would not
Oh,
be my first choice.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Liz was saying I was flashing, but I thought the camera angle was such that you could only see from my chest up.
The streakers are back in the coffee shop. I think they were running by outside in the snow.
Oh, were
or the
they?
rain, or whatever
Okay. It's
doing
very
out there.
dark outside.
Precipitating.
All right, moving on. This is a good one. They're all good, of course. Jeff, I'm offended. Just kidding. Hey, APG crew. I've been a wallflower APG listener and figured it was time to step out and mingle a little. I started listening to APG 3 or 4 years ago when my interest in aviation started. Now, when I say interest, I mean my desire to overcome my fear of flying. I used to be terrified of flying. I would have trouble sleeping the night before flights. I couldn't eat until after I'd landed. I would tense up every time the plane made an unexpected noise or jostled in turbulence. It all came to a head one morning after a sleepless night before a flight, where I found myself in a Nashville bathroom stall room throwing up from anxiety. I said to myself, okay, this is ludicrous. I got to figure out how to get over this fear. I see people standing in line for Starbucks more worried about not getting their grande vanilla half-calf almond milk latte with Splenda than cruising 35,000 feet above the ground. Something has got to change. So I ran headlong into my fear. I started learning everything I could about aviation and fell in love with it. That's when I stumbled upon your podcast. Your podcast actually helped me get over my fear of flying. Listening to y'all talk so nonchalantly about flying week in and week out brought it home how normal and safe air travel was. I realized that for airline pilots, flying was as benign or sometimes as boring as working a desk job at a computer, particularly if you're an Airbus pilot with only having to press 2 buttons.
Hey, enough of that.
That was not me. That was actually
Jeff.
from Jeff. Not
You're
my-
Jeff?
I'm Jeff. Yeah, no, but that's not a different Jeff. Anyway.
Jeff, did you just send in your own feedback about
Yeah,
your
Just so you could insult me.
Yes. And I do have trouble. I do have trouble sleeping the night before a flight. Yeah. No, just kidding. Yeah, I throw up a lot. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Let's see. Thank you, APG crew, so much for being a huge part of overcoming my fear of flying and fueling my love for aviation. Oh, one last thing. Sorry for the novella. I want to thank you all for providing hours of excellent content. I'm a touring musician, and the APG podcast has made my many hours of driving much more tolerable. It's always a special moment when I put the podcast on in the van. My fellow bandmates cheer with excitement. Or are they groaning? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Hey, Jeff's bandmates Thank you for
Yeah.
tolerating
we're,
his indulgence.
We're going to go with the excitement and the cheer and not groaning. That's what we're going to go with. I can't wait till all of this pandemic crap is over and we can meet face-to-face at an APG meetup. Yes, I'm
Here.
looking forward to that as well. If any of the APG crew are ever in Nashville, I'd love to buy you lunch or a beer.
We were in Nashville. We had breakfast in Nashville.
2019, in
Damn.
July or August, I think. And I'm in Nashville. I was in Nashville when I got COVID.
I'll not go back there then.
But I don't.
Such a pleasant memory.
I think I had it probably before I actually got to Nashville. So I probably brought it to Nashville. Actually, sorry. Okay. I intended to ask a question, but I don't want to stress out Liz by taking up a bunch of feedback time.
We didn't even get a question.
I will write in again at a later date. Anyway, so long, and thanks for all the fish. Jeff.
Very good, Jeff.
That's awesome. So, I'll definitely look you up, ring you up there, Jeff, next time in Nashville. It's not an uncommon destination for the airplane that I'm now flying. So,
and any Douglas Adams fan is a friend of mine.
And I was just going to say that's actually a topic of conversation that's come up before, especially while flying skydivers. If there's more than one of us flying the aircraft and we're having, a down moment and a chance to have some conversation, it's often turned to, there's these people behind us who are about to jump out of an airplane for the first time and they're probably scared out of their minds, or nervous at least a little bit. And we're sitting up here talking about like what we're going to order for lunch. And that's truly how routine and mundane.
Yeah, but you're not jumping
or
out of the
actually
airplane.
eating lunch. Sometimes it's like, anyone want a French fry?
Trying to keep it down, right?
Hey.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad that we had some part in a positive way of helping you get over your fear of flying. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real achievement, actually, because we know there's no logic behind a phobia. So if you can overcome it and learn to control it, indeed, in your case, conquer it, I'd take my hat off to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's no logic to our podcast either, so.
So you're in good company.
Right.
You're suggesting our podcast is a phobia?
I'm sure there's someone with a fear of APG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the scientific medical term is for that yet, but we'll think of it.
Liz says Rick has a fear of APG today.
Yeah, very true. Yes.
No, just kidding. I'm sure he has a great excuse. He's probably out there working for a living, flying airplanes and such. Let's see. We'll squeeze one more in. That's what she said. That's what I'm doing. We think a lot. Great minds, Liz. Great minds. Peter sent Nick this update about that arrogant millionaire pilot that landed at an RAF base in lockdown because he wanted to see the beach. You'll remember that. We talked about that last year, I believe, the pilot involved.
Yeah, it even became a show title.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It did. That's right. Great artwork there. Richard Charles Priestley Wood. Oh, you got to be someone important if you have 4 names.
4 names. It doesn't. I'm disappointed though. It doesn't end in like the 3rd or the 8th or.
He was being
Sir.
modest. I'm sure it probably does.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
He landed at RAF Valley to visit the beach, but instead sparked an incident involving fire engines and led to an investigation by the Civil Aviation Authority. He was flying up to Yorkshire to visit his mum, but when he contacted her en route, she said that she was busy.
Not today, son. Not today.
Yeah, no, I don't have time for you today. So he diverted to Anglesey. It's that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's like well out of your way, but there you go.
RAF Valley was closed at the time, and a notice filed with the Aviation Authority had been issued to that effect due to its being a bank holiday. The prosecutor said that there was also a ban on civilian flights at RAF Valley to a small part of the airfield due to COVID-19 restrictions. But she said that at 11:40 a.m. that day, Fire Officer Keith Roberts saw an aircraft overflying the airfield. At one point, its undercarriage was partly down, and he decided it must be an emergency and raised the alarm. radio record showed that Wood had called the RAF Valley Tower at least 7 times about landing, but unsurprisingly, there was no response from air traffic control because the airfield was closed.
Yes.
You think at that point you'd start to wonder. You go, did I miss something? Was there some sort of
That's right,
NOTAM or I don't know.
But, I'm starting to wonder, maybe this is just an alias name. It might be. Here's a description of the man. He was a white man, 6 feet 6 inches, somewhat thin. He was wearing shorts, a thin, cagoule? I don't know what that is.
Cagoule.
Cagoule?
It's a wind cheater.
Okay.
Thin.
Like a windbreaker. Okay.
Yeah, windbreaker.
A cagoule type jacket and trainers. He had glasses and short gray hair and a beard, and he was saying something about plane tails. Mr. Roberts
I did it
him,
because of plane tails.
Mr. Roberts.
He was looking for a new topic. Mr. Roberts asked him why he had made an unscheduled landing at RAF Valley. He replied, "I wanted to see the beach." I guess when he realized how serious the situation is, he became less flippant and arrogant with the folks there at the airport, the military airport. And did they tell him that you've landed here without authorization and we can't let you take off, but we can't stop you?
I think that was part of it, right?
Well, yeah, because
you can't take off, but we can't stop you.
They're just firemen. Yeah. They're the fire service. They didn't have any guards with guns and things. After all, we don't tend to do that on our civic, in this country, on our military bases.
Yeah, that had been there. I think we talked about that when we covered this initially. That had been an American airfield, military airfield. They probably would have had a couple bullet holes.
Well, he'd have been laid flat out on the tarmac, naked, face down, with about 10 M16s trained on him.
Exciting. Wood was said to have an annual income of £375,000 and £1 million in savings. Kind of interesting that they put this in the article.
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of fines in the UK are related to your income. He has to declare his income, and they probably got that from the court documents.
I see. Okay. Magistrates Court Chairman Alistair Langdon fined him £1,700 for each of the 2 offenses. It kind of seems like he got off light.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like very much.
He also had to pay the CAA's £750 costs and a £190 victim surcharge. I hate those victim surcharges.
So he paid
They add up.
£3,000. £3,500.
That's right. Particularly when you got a whole airplane full of them, Jeff. Another bad landing. God damn it, that's another 120 victim surcharges.
It really adds up when you multiply it by the number of people suffering.
Yeah. Oh, hell.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, thank you. Was it Peter?
Yeah, it's Peter of, he goes by the handle in Twitter, St. Peter of Kent.
Yeah, I'm terrible at math. It was £4,340 total.
Sir Peter.
Well, that's about, how many $1,000 is that? $6,000?
It's a lot of money.
5,000 something.
It's nothing to shake a fist at, right?
No.
It
wasn't a cheap day out.
No. Will it keep him from doing it again? Probably not.
Probably not.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Possibly. Probably
Maybe.
not. Yeah. Liz says, I hope the beach visit was worth it.
Well, it's not. As we discussed it at the time, it's a crap beach.
Yeah, it was not the most beautiful of beaches I've seen.
No, it's a shingle beach. There's no actual sand there.
Oh.
It goes stones into sea. It's, not good.
Not good at all. All right. Well, with that, I think it's now time for us to end this episode, thankfully. And, if you're interested in learning more about the show, if you're new, welcome. I think you're going to love it here. The community is awesome. You can learn more about it and the crew and other stuff by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com, our website. And we're also on social media.
We are indeed. You can head over to Twitter. We are at APG Crew, and you can find our individual Twitter handles pinned to the top of that page as well. If Facebook is more to your liking, we're at facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. And I will eventually get back to putting things on Instagram, where we are also APG Crew.
Hey, you're busy, you know?
Yeah, I've been
We
a
have
little
lives to
busy,
lead.
so I've definitely been a slacker on the social medias, but I'm also
Slacker?
a slacker.
What? Yeah, good segue there. Let's let Hillel tell us all about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and plain tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks, Hillel, and a big round of applause to our producer-director, who happens to be in Toronto. Ontario.
Isn't that a kind of chocolate biscuit?
I love that. Let's hear that again. A place to stand, a place to grow.
They're the Singing Mounties, aren't they?
I think so.
Yep.
That was just something that Liz and I recorded before the show.
Very good.
It's very catchy.
Thank you. So thank you, Liz, for all the work that you do to make this show happen each and every week. And thank you, everybody in the live chat room, live audience, and people that downloaded this thing, and tell everybody about it. And gosh, you mean so much to us, and we do appreciate you. And we hope to see you again soon on the next episode of the Airline Pilot Guy Show. In the meantime, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, I'm strangely
Very
hungry
good.
for a burrito now.
What? I don't know why, Liz. Why did I record that? She said, "Tell them why you recorded that."
Because we need songs for all of our places of.
Yes, we do. I'm
That's
trying to work
something-
out.
So when Rick comes to, where? Base in Ontario. Rick. Oh, like Captain Bell. Oh, Ontario, California. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. He said he was going to be changing bases to Ontario. I thought it was because you live in Ontario, Canada. I completely misunderstood. I'm sorry, Liz. She's explaining to me why. Yeah, I got the brain fog big time.
So it's not actually
It
the
applies
state
in
song
both-
of
It
Ontario.
applies in both cases. The provincial song, I think.
As soon as I heard Ontario, I just assumed that she wanted some music for herself, and because I'd mentioned that I'd come up with some music for Rick,
Cincinnati, WKRP.
and like when he is in Cincinnati, in his mobile studio.
Great joke.
Very good. I love the Cincinnati. That's great.
Yeah, so Liz, and now it's becoming all clear. Thank you very much for clearing that up for me. I was completely under a different understanding. I was wrong. Yeah, for sure. We still have to come up with some kind of a cutesy sound effect for lists. Are there some songs about lists or Hampshire?
Yeah, money, money, money. You could do that
ABBA
by
song?
ABBA. Or there's a Pink Floyd. She used to be didn't she trade in stocks and shares and make lots of money? Money, money, money. Am I right, Liz?
Lists.
No,
like the village of
Oh,
Lith, the place you
me.
live.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Liz.
No, not
Sorry.
Liz. No, Liz.
Well, you're not going to find a song for Liz.
Liz,
Good
you need, to
Lord,
put the
no one's
graphic
ever,
up. You need to put the graphic up.
no one's ever heard of the place.
Or how about Hampshire?
How about just England?
England.
Well,
Like,
that's a
it's
bit
all
big.
Just make it more general.
No,
That's
it's
Gotta
not.
be some
that
songs about
large.
England.
Yeah. But I'm only half English. The other half's Australian.
Well, you complicate things, Nick. You complicate things. Oh, well, we'll come up with something.
What you gonna do?
Yeah.
We'll figure it
But
out.
I mean, nothing can beat this one.
No, that's perfect.
Especially with that, whatever that is in the background.
I'm not sure. It's a frog dying, I
Sounds like-
think.
Oh, dear.
Well, there are people that have lived all their lives in the United States that don't understand it either. So,
What, the Kakalaki?
poor guy. Yeah. Oh, she said that Muhammad couldn't understand the Kakalaki thing. I forgot that you can't hear Liz. Liz, make yourself heard on the crew here. Come on.
I wouldn't expect anyone outside of North or South Carolina to know that.
There she is. Now everybody
even
can hear
then-
you, except for you have to unmute yourself. Here we go. I'll unmute you. There we go. You're
Turn
unmuted.
clean feed off here. So I'm not.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. We're there.
Oh,
Yeah.
We've got some ideas for show titles there, I think.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Jeff's
What is
aphasic day.
Aphasia is inability to speak correctly.
It's not a good title. I don't know what that is.
Captain Jeff Space Cadet.
Thank you, Micah. I love
Yeah.
you too.
There are different types of aphasias.
Okay, so my suggestions are Coffee Fund Bullion. You know, you're taking your gold bars to Switzerland from the Coffee Fund, or Bitcoin, either one of those. Sloping backside.
just the back slope.
I want to see Nick's illustration of sloping backside.
I'm not sure I do, but that'd be great.
And the last suggestion was Acme T-shirt selfies, and I don't know how you do that, but anyway.
Neither do I. I've got humping the runway.
Oh, yeah, humping the runway.
Yeah.
You've seen the speed hump signs for roads around here.
Well, you could have a camel in the middle of the runway.
I'm sure I could go
Could
find
do. Or a speed hump sign
for you.
And
You
the
have
other
both.
was,
Like Neil's
get a boat.
suggestion. Ailing pilot guy.
Ailing pilot guy.
Oh, that's good.
I do like that.
or a Land Rover over Dover over.
Yeah, not funny.
You got something you can work with there, Nick?
Ailing pilot guy.
A lot of
is
people have asked
easy.
that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what, Nick?
I was there with you, Jeff. That's okay.
Aphasic day.
I think the
I'd
Coffee
s-
Fund Bullion's good because it's just Jeff sitting at a desk with coffee and a whole bunch of gold bars.
I imagine like Scrooge McDuck. Like
Yeah,
diving
exactly.
Into the
into
gold
the
coins.
coins, yeah. And you guys are
As long
Huey,
as it-
Dewey, and Louie.
As
boy.
long as it doesn't require me to do some kind of a selfie for the artwork.
It will.
Damn it.
Yeah. And
So
Nick's
what-
pretty
see, dear
demanding about those
listeners,
things.
Those
He
of
is
you who are
very
here
demanding.
still.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get it right.
Sometime during the week, Nick will say to one of us, usually Jeff, I need a selfie, but then it'll be very specific in like the orientation
like
and
this,
the
stand on
profile
your
and the
head.
lighting and like something that you have to do with
Looking over your right shoulder.
arms or your hands or like, make a fist and bring it up under your chin and
Yeah, but they work out, don't they?
I
Well,
hope someone got the reference
They
of
do.
what I just said, but anyway.
You're a perfectionist. You're happy.
we didn't catch the last part of what you said, Steph. I'm sorry. Was there something very...
No, that's okay. It was a movie reference. Someone out there will get it. It was obscure and it's fine.
We'll say it again.
About the taking a picture where you kind of make a clenched fist, and then bring your fist up under your chin and turn your head to the side and look off in the distance. And
What is that?
it's a
reference
scene from Napoleon Dynamite, but that's okay.
Well, it sounded sort of Anchorman-ish to me.
It is a little Anchorman-ish too, but it's definitely from Napoleon.
I can definitely see Ron Burgundy doing that.
Yeah, I love it when he does like limbering up the
Yes.
lips.
Scotch.
Yeah, and using all the... I don't know what he says, but it's very funny.
And putting on his Sex Panther aftershave.
Yes.
60% of the time it's effective.
Yeah.
60%.
We love Ron.
All right. Well, thank you all, one and all, in the live audience for.
You landed safely despite Jeff's.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But,
just edit yourself out, Jeff.
I do have my physical next month, so maybe they'll be able to.
Just show them this tape.
Well, I don't need that.
Maybe don't
take me off of flying status.
Yeah, well.
I mean, release it and then burn it.
You wanted to retire?
Burn after reading.
Yeah. I wonder how much.
Long-term disability.
Long-term disability, how long that lasts.
Not long enough.
Something to think about. Not long enough, right? Anyway. Okay. Do we think there's any chance of a show 500 meetup? So when would that
500,
be?
yeah, I think
that's a year
500's
away.
far enough in the future. We might better do that.
Yeah, that would be just under a year,
Just
right?
under a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe like
The end of this year?
Next Christmas.
Well, Christmas or probably beginning of 2022. Just if we kind of stretch the.
Oh yeah. Like when I think we did like 199.9.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Hey,
just to
we
kinda
had a
make
good time plotting all of that. That worked out so well.
Make sure
still-
that you're not on a layover. Okay.
Or make sure you are,
nagging me.
or make sure you can be in Miami. Which
Yeah,
is
make sure
really
make sure
important.
you've scheduled it off. I have. Thank you.
I think we asked you
Leave
like
me
100
alone.
times. Like, please.
Yeah, I think you're not going to be able to ask him that this time. He's going to kind of
Yeah.
remember.
That I mean, I don't know why I didn't pick up on the fact that you guys were doing something weird. You were playing something weird. But
You didn't know us well enough at that point.
no, now I do though. So
Just make sure Nick and I can cross a border and get there wherever we're going.
do we really want that?
I'll have
You
the
can cross
COVID
the border.
passport,
I don't know if
worry.
you can go back, but you can get here. I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
I mean, we're not.
Yeah,
We'll put you up.
those
We'll
Canadian
take care
people,
of
they're pretty picky.
To bring my
Yeah.
dog and my cat with me.
I think we
Oh,
can.
they'll need pet passports.
I was reading a list of all the places where U.S. citizens are allowed to go right now with various different types of COVID testing, usually within like 72 hours in advance, or you get there and then you take a test at some point. But it's a lot of places. I was surprised. I might have to plan a vacation.
There you go.
You can't come here, unfortunately.
No, cannot go to the UK,
Or
unfortunately.
fortunately.
Or
Yeah.
Canada. Which are two places I would like to go, but
Yay, Jilly, she
There's a lot
can't
of-
come here.
there's a lot of locations with nice beaches where I would be allowed to go.
No.
And I wouldn't mind, planting myself on a beach somewhere away from other people.
Well, we got nice beaches. There's one on Anglesey at
Yeah, I
RAF
heard.
Valley.
It looks
I
very
suggest
beautiful.
you go try that one.
Looks cold
I've seen
and
the pictures.
uncomfortable.
It's really nice.
Yes.
No, I'm not going to.
November the 17th, says Mikey's worked it out.
Sounds like U.S. Thanksgiving-ish.
It
around there
is. It
sometime.
is.
Oh, yeah,
But-
travelling on that day won't be any problem at all.
Yeah,
but
you
people
had
have the day
another. You
off.
had one of those right then. Like with the third 300th or something was on the U.S. Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, that was pretty close.
Yeah.
I got my primary
October.
vacation weeks, the end of July and first week of August, just in case we did a
Oshkosh.
Oshkosh again.
I don't know.
I'm not
about
saying
it.
that's
I
what we're
heard
gonna do.
Sun and Fun is on, but I don't know about Oshkosh. So
Yeah.
I think that might be a bit optimistic still. Just
Yeah, I do
with the
too.
state of the
Probably.
world.
Yeah.
But we try to be optimistic here
Hey, I'm all for optimism.
and unrealistic.
Yeah,
And
now that you've had your
unrealistic.
vaccine twice. Of course, you're an optimist.
I have high hopes that everyone else will get theirs in short order.
So I'm doing my walks, and people are like, as you get closer to somebody walking in the opposite direction, they start moving away from you, and I'm going, I want to yell out, "It's okay, I'm not contagious."
Like the guy who landed at Anglesey.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Like, it's okay. I had COVID 2 weeks ago.
It didn't work for him, so and
No,
it
it
hasn't
did
worked
not
for me
work.
either. So I haven't.
Did
I
not
just
work.
shut up. I just kind of shake my head, and then thinking, well, they don't know that you've had COVID.
I've invested in all these masks at this point. They've become part of my fashion statement and wardrobe. So I think I'll just continue to wear them indefinitely.
Yeah, I'm not out there walking with a mask on, so it's outside and social distancing to the max.
To the max, baby.
To the max. Anywho, well, thanks everyone for hanging with us.
Oh, Nick's
look,
gone.
we bored Nick.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Nick's gone to bed.
We've lost
Surprised.
one. All right. So we're going to go ahead and go, and we'll be back next week. What's the matter?
You didn't hear him just burp?
I think he meant to mute himself, but he
Yeah,
threw
he
his
didn't.
camera off instead.
He muted the video like Jeff.
Well, I
what's his
didn't
name?
mute myself. Is that right?
No, we heard that.
Oh, damn.
All right. See you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
We're leaving.
Adios.
Blowing this.
Cheers,
podcast
lovely
right now.
listeners.